Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the show today. It's Comics News Today for the 23rd, I guess it is. Yeah, the 23rd of May. For goodness sake, dude. But you're right, Thundero. Time is absolutely flying. But you know what? It's a very hot, warm, sunny day. Hot and warm. My dog is enjoying it. He's German, but he does like to lap up the sun. Me, on the other hand, I prefer no. Yeah. I think, yes, you tell him, Warren. Yeah. Your mic is seeming to be giving you trouble again. But nevertheless, glad to have you guys here. Of course, it's like I said, I got myself a cup of coffee. I've got to sit with some friends to talk about comic books, which is going to be awesome. Please go over there and hit that like button and share, and so we can make sure that we get as many people in here as possible to have chat with us. I think, Thundera, if you get that mic taken care of, I could use your assistance here real quick.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. If you could take over for a second, I need to deal with the dog.
Uh-oh, his pup. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, not all ages, ages. There's a G in that word. Hope everybody's having a good day. Hope everybody's having a nice day. Where I'm at, I don't have a nice, beautiful, sunny day. It's a nice day, but it's not like, it doesn't even feel like May weather. It feels like early or late fall weather today around here. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if anybody ever heard, but up in Canada, just to my north, they had a little rash of tornadoes, and our chat buddy Captain Canada, Chester's favorite,
I do love Captain
right
Canada.
around his area, some tornadoes ripped through. He's okay. All his family's okay. I think pretty much everybody was okay, but a couple properties got tore up a bit,
Ah,
um, which is pretty rare. They don't usually get them that far north, just because of the airstream doesn't let that happen. But apparently, it was just a perfect storm of humid straight to not humid, and the air pressure changed just enough to give them one. Um, but yeah, just if anybody sees him around or whatever, that's where he's been. He's been dealing with that in his community.
well, I'm glad he's all right, though. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
But the jet stream is being odd, and it's actually dropped below the equator, both
Mhm.
north and south, above and below, where it usually never does such a thing. But then again, right now there's a lot of weird stuff. We know we're coming into. And I know I've said this for several years, but you got to understand this is like a century-long effect, right? So we're going to be dead before this is even, done, right? But we call it a solar minimum, but I don't know that we really know what we're talking about, to be honest with you. But the sun has certainly come into a cycle that we do know exists, and it's causing a lot of problems, including that little pesky thing they call global warming, right? But a lot of other stuff, like messing with the weather. Like, for instance, this is a simple little question. A lot of people probably don't know the answer to. Where does lightning come from, Thundero?
The sky.
Yeah, that wasn't the answer I wanted.
It's actually not even true anyway,
It's
because it
not.
comes from the ground.
No. Actually, the effect it does, but the effect that is causing the lightning, of course, you need the clouds to create the polar
Yes,
contact,
that's right.
but it's
The
actually coming from
polarization.
space.
Yeah,
It's the uh,
yeah.
the uh, uh, the electrical stream coming out of the sun that is causing your lightning.
Right.
So there you go. We have a direct, and this is something science has known for a very long time. This isn't new, right?
Right.
But the sun it causes trouble. It's a troublemaker.
It's pretty nuts though when you see like really slowed down shots of lightning and you can see it like being well, technically it's being pulled from the ground. So what you can see is like this. Well, not always, but sometimes you can see like this arc where it meets in the sky. That's usually what we see with our eyes. But what's actually happening often is because, as we know, electricity goes to the ground. It follows that for whatever reason. I don't think they really know why, but they know that electricity tries to ground itself at all times, right? Tries to
Right.
take the path of resistance to the ground. Um,
Because the ground is a ground.
yes.
Yeah, the earth is, because you basically it's really simple. That's the thing that's interesting about it is it's
Mhm.
all positive and negative grounding. That's what it really
That's
comes
right.
down to. It's positive, negative,
But you
and
can literally see it. You can
you
find
can.
videos and stuff of with a really slowed down, obviously, camera, and you can watch it get come up and make that connection in this
Yep.
in this in what we think of as it's always coming down, right? But that's not always the case. Very often, it's doing both. It comes up and it goes up and then meets, and that's what we see as the flash.
Well, yeah, well,
Um,
because it's what you're getting is a cause of an electrical connection, right?
yeah,
So you're getting it from above and below, actually. But quite
right.
often, because the ground is, big, it's the one that initiates the connection, right? But that's
Yep,
all that's going on. It's like you're flicking a switch, or you're putting a wire to the end of the one end of the battery, right? You're creating a
yep.
connection, a link. It's all it is. It's a circuit.
It's a pretty amazing thing, and it's so simple but yet so complicated. That's one of the most beautiful things about the electrical forces of nature, especially electrical forces, is they're very simple in like concept,
Hmm.
but then the functionaries of them are incredibly complicated.
Yeah, the
And
layering of
it's
it, the interactive
yeah,
layering is very complicated.
so
Yeah,
amazing. Such an
it
amazing
is.
universe that we have.
It is cool, and I'm really happy to see because I've been paying attention for a couple of decades. Well, actually, even when I was a kid, I read Velikovsky's book when I was probably a teenager, but
Right.
several of his books actually. But the thing is, now we're right in the middle of a paradigm shift, right?
Hmm.
And you have those old hats. We talked about this a little yesterday too, but we got those old hats that are really pushing against it because of their money and their status and stuff. But you're in the middle of a paradigm shift where everything is moving toward plasma science. I mean, as it should, because they're the ones in the lab actually showing, look, this is how this works, and they're doing the work, right? But the good thing of that is, one, it's super simple. But like you said, the layering, the interactivity of it is ridiculously complicated, which we need all hands on deck, right? To kind
Right.
of get in there and figure it all out. But the cool thing is how simple it is, and the fact that electricity, plasma, is scalable, right? It's
Hmm.
completely scalable, and that makes sense. If you're going to have something that is a universal controlling force, well, it better be scalable, right?
Right. It
And
would
here
have
we
to be.
have it'd have to be. And I think it's really neat because we have this axiom in science that says the simplest answer tends to be the correct one because
Right.
reality wants the easiest path, like water, right?
Yeah.
It
Like
needs
electricity.
like
Path of
electricity.
least
Yeah,
resistance.
that's right.
It's why it's the resistor. A lot of people don't know this, but at being a technician for so long, one of the biggest breakthroughs humanity ever made was resistors. Was
Hmm.
the ability to stop electrical current
Yep.
and redirect it.
Well.
Pretty much everything we have that we're all both using right now
Hmm.
has probably multiple resistors in it somewhere
Oh, sure.
to make sure that it will do whatever function it needs to do. Like our microphones definitely have them. These computers have multiple.
Oh, yeah.
The monitors have them. The headsets probably have some form of resistor in it.
Hmm.
The lights in my house have one in it. And pretty much everything by law in America has to have some form of basic resistor, which we would just call a fuse, that is a safety mechanism. But all of that is why we have the modern world, is because the resistors of differing kinds of them were invented so that we could actually control the flow of electricity, because it used to be just raw power all the time until it hit ground. Well, now we can actually direct it where we need it to go,
It's true.
and that's how we have things like a power grid and how we have
Well,
complicated circuit boards and all that stuff.
Well, sure. That's why we have the outlet system in our house. You can't use that
Yeah,
otherwise. I mean,
that's
it
right.
doesn't work. But yeah, no. When you're building a circuit board, it's even a modern one. You can go back and look at the old cathode days if you'd like, but they're the same thing,
Yep,
just shrunk down. But no, you got resistors, you got capacitors, transistors. All these things
yep,
are doing is controlling the movement of electricity and controlling the the amperage of it applied to
right.
whatever point. So you have to reduce this down really small, or you can use a little bit more here. That's the whole purpose. Yeah, it's pretty fun. That's one of the things I loved as a kid. You see, back in the day, Thundero,
Hmm.
kids actually learn shit.
Yeah.
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 These days, even though they have access to the greatest freaking library in the history of man that we know of, they don't learn anything. But when I was a kid, I had a chemistry set. I built little radios. I went to the Radio Shack. I mean, Boy
I didn't
Scouts.
have to go to the Radio Shack because my family's business had pretty much everything a Radio Shack would
There
have.
you go.
We had bins full of little resistors and
Hmm.
fuses and transducers and capacitors of all different stripes.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand. Everybody probably listening to this has or has used a microwave, right?
Mm.
Microwaves are incredibly dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Incredibly dangerous. But we use them all the time. We don't even nobody even thinks about it. But if you're working on one, they can kill you very easily, even if they're not plugged in, because they have high voltage capacitors in them. And if that voltage doesn't get discharged properly and hits you and gets to your heart, it can stop your heart.
Oh sure.
Um, that kind of stuff is people just don't realize it. How amazing! I mean, we literally live in a time of pure wonder when it comes to electricity. I think in
Oh
the
yeah.
past they had now this is getting real deep, but way back in the past, we're pretty sure now they had much more understanding of at least electricity than we thought,
Oh sure.
depending on where you're at. And I think we have an even greater probably than they did, at least from what we found. Um, and I think that's one of the wonders of the modern world is our electrical engineering is just so incredible
Oh yeah.
because it's an actual marvel that we all take for granted that we can walk up to our wall and flip a switch and illuminate our house.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
Amazing. The amount of stuff that had to be learned just to get you to that point, it would fill literally does fill libraries.
It does.
But we all just take it for granted.
I know, dude. And like refrigeration. I mean, it goes on and on.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, electricity is important. And I think it's really neat that in my lifetime I was able to experience the shift in science to understanding that electricity is everything. Well, it's not actually. Vibration seems to be the root of
Yeah,
the cosmos, and out of that, it creates the effect of sound, and it
yep.
creates the effect of electricity. And from
That's right.
electricity, we get heat and light, and from sound, we get DNA. How fucking freaky is that, dude?
It's crazy, isn't it?
How freaky is that, dude? You realize those experiments I've talked about here before, where they were just have they make sure they have pure water and they would use different sounds at the water and it would create DNA, broken strands of DNA in the water. But just wow,
Hmm.
that's a big deal. But now they've moved well past that. Now they're doing stuff with like they can put a DNA sample in the water, right? And then
Yep.
completely remove the DNA sample, but then hit it with a sound and it will make that DNA sample because the water remembers.
That's right.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah.
The water remembers. For freaking
Why? How? Who
well,
knows? But
well,
it
no,
does.
it's really interesting. But vibration is the root. It is, God
Which
spoke,
is
right?
that's what I was about to say. Which is interesting because especially the Jewish slash Christian and Muslim, I guess,
Indian,
origins. Yep.
Chinese,
Well,
Native
yeah,
American, African.
is
Oh,
that God or something like God literally uttered words and created
yeah,
the universe.
yeah,
Let there be light, and there was light. And it seems like scientifically that might be accurate. That the
yeah,
Big Bang
yeah.
was actually a bang. It was a noise.
It was
It
a
was
noise,
sound.
yeah, yeah. Well, we're starting to understand with the Birkeland currents that Dr. Birkeland, of course, is very important for modern science. But the Birkeland currents that run all over the universe, you've seen a map of them. The universal thing look like a root or a tree. You've seen the
Yep.
pictures before. The interesting thing is that, of course, that energy is flowing all over the place, and everything in the energy is where we're getting all our us and stuff is happening inside that electricity, right?
Hmm.
Like one of the best proofs of it is, you have blue suns, you got white suns, yellow suns, orange suns, red suns, right? All that kind of stuff. Well, if you go and look at a Birkeland current, and, just pick anywhere you want. You look at the Birkeland current, right in the dead center where the actual hot electricity is where you find blue suns, and at the edge of the auroric effect of the current, you find the red suns. So it seems very clear that blue suns, all suns are born blue. They're basically a Z pinch, is what they are, an electrical Z pinch. And but as the current moves or whatever, they will float out away from the center, the actual beam into the aura. And the further out they get, the of course the less energetic they are, and the colors will change to red being the least energetic. But here's the
Right.
interesting thing: they understand now that it's the red ones that create all the life, though. So we
Interesting.
need that effect. We need that effect. But here's the real ultimate question, therefore, since this is all becoming, this is becoming very, standard science now, is where the hell does the energy come from? There's got to be a source somewhere. There must be a source somewhere we can't see, we don't know of, that is creating that universal size electrical effect. Where's that coming
Right.
from? That's the frickin' ultimate question right there.
Stephanie's 16.8 pounds.
Okay. My wife decided to tell me one of my cats is 16.8 pounds.
Well, that's good. At least he's not
Yeah.
17 or 18 pounds. That would be
Yeah.
worse.
No, she's a big girl.
Yeah, that
But
cat's the
no,
size of
that
my dog. Jesus.
that's there. Anything under 30 pounds is a cat. Come on, buddy.
Anyway,
But
we're
anyway,
yeah, we're not talking about comic books here.
we're not.
But it's all right.
But
It's fun.
that does lend a lot of credence, which is weird, because before we had all these scientific instruments and all this modern technology, all this wonder, people were saying things like, "Oh, existence is a tree," and
Hmm.
the world trees and
Hmm.
things like this. All of these things were ideas that predate our scientific discoveries, and yet somehow we keep ending up back there.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
I don't think we know as much as we think we know.
Doesn't seem that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. I felt like Bilbo there for a second. But yeah, no, it is fascinating conversations to sit and talk about it, and I would suggest that you go and take a look at plasma science if you haven't, because it's really where everything is at right now. It is Thunder is 100% right. It's an absolute wonderful, spectacular time to be in science, or even just a hobbyist like myself. It really is. And honestly, I use the word hobbyist to somehow quantify PhDs, and I shouldn't do that because that's never how it was. Right? It's
Right.
never how it was. People would go out and study many things. I mentioned yesterday polymaths. Most people were polymaths who were into those kind of things, and they
Yep.
went and they learned and they communicated with each other and they shared. That's how science used to be. And now we have this network, this system that has really shut it down. But it's starting to break down, and that's great. But I go check out the plasma science. You can certainly go to the Electric Universe guys. The Thunderbolts project certainly has a lot of good videos, but it's not just them. It's not just them. And to be fair, they have it's not their shtick, but there is a side of the Thunderbolts project that is trying to find a correlation between our mythology and the scientific reality. And
Hmm.
that's a bit out there. It's a bit out there, but that's
Sure.
okay. What's wrong with that? They're just speculating, but it's not the entire thing. But that's probably the easiest place to go. But there are many other. There's a lot of plasma scientists right now that you don't have to go anywhere near the Electric Universe guys, because they do carry a little bit of stigma against them, unfortunately, because they're the ones that butted their head against the wall long enough, so they're the ones that get their fingers pointed at them the most.
Yeah.
And that whole
Troublemakers.
yeah, that whole Thunderbolts of
Yeah.
the God thing is a little bit out there. Although even that, which is completely speculation, but even that is very interesting. I don't agree, seeing as I am an actual anthropologist. I don't agree with them 100%, but
Mhm.
I get why they think what they think. But I'm just putting that caveat on there because they do get a little flack for that. Everything else, though, which is 90% of what they do, is straight up science.
Yeah.
That's a good place to go as far as it's the easiest place to go. But I suggest you get into it because boy, it's changing, man. Like they're doing an experiment, for instance. Where is this at? Was this at? I think it was at Stanford. I think it's at Stanford. But they're doing experiments, and there's other people around the world that are getting involved with it. But um, there's some interesting aspects because when we get into the electrical aspect of reality, it's very simple, but it's super complex, as we had just said. And here, let me give you an example of one of those things. Every living cell on this planet gives off light. Everything does. And of course, I just told you light is a product of electricity, which is a product of vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every cell in your body is giving off light all the time. All the plants, trees, mouses, deers, everything like that. And The thing with that is you can't really see it because we don't see ultraviolet light, the human eye.
Right.
However, you can kind of see it sometimes. You get the feeling of it, the
Mm-hmm.
glow in the eye, the glow. The person seems to be glowing today. You get a feel for it. You can feel the energetic reaction because, well, you're an electrical being. Of course, you can feel it. But
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing they've been doing with this type of idea and experimentation that has created some really, really bizarre results. And let me give you an example of one. If you take and you put two people, say me and Thundero, right? You put
Mm-hmm.
us into a room, and in that room you have a strobing light that's just kind of, turning, spinning around, just a strobing light, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's constantly sparking the brain, right? The brain's like, oh, light, 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 that's going on. And then You take poor little old me out of that room and you put me in another room and it's completely dark and black. Now, the light in your body, the amount of light your body produces, is directly correlating to the amount of light you're being exposed to. So, if you're in bright sunlight, you are literally beaming. Your body is responding with light, right? But if you're in a dark room, you give off much less light. You still give off light, but it's less. But if you put poor little old me in that dark, completely dark room, but then over there with Thundera in that room, the other room, you turn that strobe light back on, and Thundero's experiencing. You know what? My brain starts reacting exactly the same way as if I were in that room.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why is that?
Good question.
Mm. And this is
Good question.
and here's the great thing about electrical sciences. You can reproduce yourself many of them.
Yeah. They're
You can
simple
go do it
experiments.
yourself. Simple
Yep.
experiments you can go show you can do yourself and see. You can. You can do this experiment, for instance, as long as you have a what do they call those EKGs or that's probably not right. Well, the things that monitor the brainwave, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
monitor both people in the room, which I'm sure you can get. I doubt it's very expensive. You can monitor. You'll get that waveform, and then you put the person in the dark room. You see it's completely different waveform. Then you turn the light on in the other room. They both start having the same waveform again. So clearly, there's some connection has been made from the experience, right?
The force. That's it.
Right. I
That's
mean,
what I'm going with.
well, you get
Force is
that,
real.
but
That's what it is.
it's really fascinating. Reality is way stranger than fiction, dude.
It
Right?
is.
Uh,
It's incredible how right some of the early guys
mm,
were about how important electricity
oh
is.
yeah,
Like somebody mentioned Tesla yesterday. He's a great example.
he is.
So there was others too as well. Tesla was not alone. There
Oh
were
no,
many at that time,
he wasn't
especially
even the
that were
first.
no, that were big into the importance of understanding electricity. Because Tesla had said something to the effect of, "If you understand vibration and electricity, you pretty much understand everything."
Hmm.
And he seems to have been correct because when you break everything down to its most basic thing, most basic form, it's a form of vibration.
Yep.
And that's amazing considering the amount of instruments and technology he had to work with for him to be able to suss that out at that time.
Yeah.
Amazing
Yeah.
that they
No,
were,
it
and he
really
was, like I
was.
said, he wasn't the only one. There was others,
No, no, no.
but
Yeah.
it's still just amazing to me that they were able to figure that out just from mostly from application, right? Because the theory is great, but anybody can come up with a theory. Science is in the doing, and these men went and did it.
Yeah,
They
they
went and
did.
tested the theories over and over and over and over, sometimes to ridiculous levels, and that's how they learned.
Sure.
And it's just amazing, and it's probably not true, but because science has become this like institution that's like shut away from the world, uh, and funded by strange money sometimes. Um, we don't really see the process like we used to, right? It's not public. A lot of Tesla's stuff, he would do public experiments and stuff. So
Oh
would a
yeah,
bunch of
no,
guys
dude.
back
They
then.
used to do that all the time. Even when I was a
Yep.
kid, they would give public displays. You don't see that much anymore, huh?
No,
That is
no, and
interesting. I didn't think about
that's a
that.
problem. I think it's something we should be open about, right? I think it's science is very important, And science isn't magic. It's not some, it's science. And we should spark the imaginations of the general public with it again, I think. I think that was healthy, to
Yeah.
be
Well,
honest with you.
yeah, no, I remember in my gym we had an assembly one day, and we had many of these kind of things where you
Hmm.
have speakers come and like, oh, I climbed Mount Everest, and they show a slideshow or whatever, interesting little things. I don't really know what the kids are doing now. Maybe Ben can help us out. He's got young kids, but I remember some dude brought in set up a whole Faraday cage system and showed
Hmm.
arcing electricity in the frickin'
That's awesome.
gymnasium, dude. Yeah. I don't know, Ben. I see you're here, but your mic is not enjoying life, I guess. Oh, there it is.
No, I was just muted just in case I had any background noise for you
Well,
guys.
you got little ones at school. Do they get to see cool things like that anymore?
Kinda like they still do science demonstrations. They'll do stuff with like liquid nitrogen
Oh,
and
that's
Hmm.
cool. Yeah, that's cool.
like so for instance, they can do demonstrations of hoverboards, right? Because you can do within
Liquid
the
nitrogen
liquid.
magnets. Yeah.
Right. And then, but they also do like, so, kind of getting back to the conversation we had yesterday of science versus engineering, they do a lot of coding stuff, right? So
Yeah.
like
Okay,
my
that's
son is
useful.
taking coding. Yeah. So he's taken coding classes already at 6, right? Up to like, he's still doing like coding stuff, and
Yeah,
he does
Japanese
like
kids do
science
that
camp.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. He's done camps where they build like airplanes to learn like aerodynamics and stuff. So
Good.
yeah, I think they still do that kind of stuff. They still try to introduce like practical science, which I
That's
think is
good.
really good to understand,
Yeah, it
you
is good.
know,
Yeah.
everyday science and stuff, right?
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. Coding and stuff is good. Computers are certainly part of our future, but I'm glad to hear that because we do need that. You mentioned the computer thing here in Japan. The kids study computers. They have computer classes in elementary school. So I'm glad to see the Americans are doing the same because it is our future. But there's another little thing I'll get now that Ben's here. I'll move on and get into the today's show. But there is one other little thing that's interesting going in this science. Um, I talked about every living cell on the planet gives off light. I mean that's just part of how we function. It just happens to be UV light, which we can't see.
Hmm.
It's not just light. For instance, did you know that your ear actually gives off sound?
Hmm.
That's pretty fascinating. So, why would your ear give off sound? What's the point of something that is intended to listen, producing its own sound? Well, it's actually quite fantastic. You know how you're sitting in a room, right? And there's conversations going on all over the place, but you can focus in on a single conversation or a single sound. You can do that, right? Well, the reason
Yep.
you can do that is because your ear produces sound to negate. It's using sound to block out sound and allow you to focus your listening. Now, isn't that
Right.
fascinating? Right? And I have a feeling, I don't know why, but that knowledge strikes me as wow, that needs to be studied because that if you could learn to control that, if you could learn to actually control that bodily function, I don't know why, but I just feel like there's something more waiting to be done with that.
Mm. That's kind of interesting because I kind of can. Like, I'm really good at if I'm in a room, a crowded room, and somebody starts talking specifically, let's say they mention my name, and a lot of people can do this, but I
Oh
can
yeah.
really, to a razor sharp degree, tune out everybody else and hear what they're saying across the, depending on the size of the room, but
Yeah.
across the room, to the point where I've literally shocked people that I heard what they were saying
Yeah.
because they didn't know I could hear them, good and bad. And I think it might be something you can learn to do. It just probably takes a lot of practice, and I think you also probably have to not have much ear damage, right?
That's
Because
true.
like
Yeah. I
people
have a
get
lot of that.
tinnitus and things.
I have a
Oh, I'm
bunch of
sure with
that.
music,
Yeah. Yeah.
and tinnitus will shut down your ability to filter noise very strongly. It's because basically all you ever hear is just a constant
Sure.
noise.
Well, most people are really good at blocking it out, and it's that sound
Yep.
production that's helping you do that. And like with me and my tinnitus, because I definitely have tinnitus,
Hmm.
I don't even think about it because my ears are just kind of zoning it out for me, right? If I
Yeah.
think about it for a
Well,
second, there it is, boom, there it is, right? But it doesn't bother me.
your brain does a lot of that too, right?
Sure.
You know, to kind of stop you from going nuts, right? Because like, for instance, like your brain blocks your nose from your vision. Technically, your eyes should be able to see your nose, right? But
Well, I
your
Mhm.
can't
brain
see
kind
my
of does
nose.
this. Well, but for a lot of people, like their nose is just like as part of their everyday vision, it just gets filtered out by their
Yeah, you're
brain.
right. It does get blurred out. Yeah, that
Yep.
is true. That is
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
So
No, the
your
brain is.
brain does a lot of
Yeah.
work
Yeah,
to,
it's
yeah.
awesome. It does do a lot of work. Yeah, that is true. But it is fascinating stuff, though. It is definitely fascinating stuff across the line. I love science. I love modern physics. I really enjoy it. And there are certain speakers in the field these days that have made they make a lot of videos trying to promote people to get involved, right? And one of the things they've done really well is they even say this out loud. They understand that depending on your science, there's going to be a language to it. Physics has its literally own written language, right? Computer code, whatever. There's a language that goes with various different disciplines. Even mine, which is just historical stuff, it has its certain linguistic elements, right? And
Mm.
this, of course, will alienate those who don't know those words. It's not about being smart or not smart, it's about ignorance, right?
Right.
It's just we're all ignorant about something, right? And these guys try really hard to put everything in layman terms, and that
Hmm.
I think is wonderful. And some people are, oh, you're just talking down to people. No, that's not what they're doing. They want people to be involved because, I mean, look with physics particularly, which is really my passion. It has literally a gigantic language of its own that you have to learn. It
Right.
literally has a language, and when you see all those physics squiggles on the board, it's like, what the hell is that? Well, if you learn the language of it, it's not that complicated. All those little
Hmm.
symbols they're doing is representing larger formula, right? Mathematical situations, and they just kind of instead of writing it all out, which could for some of those things could take forever, they shorthanded it into symbols. That's all it is. It's really nothing more complicated than that. And a lot of those symbols that you have to calculate, yeah, anybody here could do that calculation. It just depending on how long it takes. Some of these physics principles and mathematical principles could take you a week to suss out the entire formula, to be fair. But I mean, that's all they're doing. That's all they're doing. They're just simply shorthanding it into a symbol-based language. But for a layman who doesn't know that, it's what the hell is this alien thing I'm looking at? And that
Right.
and that keeps people away from it, even though you could do it. You could do it. It's not that complicated. People that are pushing forward, making innovations and breakthroughs, sure that they are smart people. Yeah, sure. But the average person can do it if you put the time to it. It's just
Yep.
the shorthand in the language. So I really appreciate these guys speaking in a very layman way because they want more people involved because it's exciting, dude. It's fun, right? And
Yeah.
making science fun is good. We should get more kids involved in it because I saw a study a few years back. And Ben, what do you think for the average American youth is their aspiration in life? The average American youth.
Oh God, to be a YouTube like personality, I guess.
Yeah, it's simpler than that. To be famous.
Oh
Oh.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like, well, that sucks, dude.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sucks a lot, dude. I mean,
Isn't
getting
it
kids.
dumb?
Huh, what do you say, Ben?
I said, isn't that dumb? That's
It
like the
is
last thing
dumb.
I'd want to be.
It is
Yeah.
dumb, dude.
Why would you want to be famous? Like, think about how miserable that would
Yeah,
be
look at
to
them.
be famous.
Look at them. Look how miserable
They're
they are.
miserable.
But I mean, where's the excitement and the aspiration to science or history or art or engineering or any other kind of human endeavor? Where's the aspiration to that? Because I really tried hard to inspire my children in that way. I really did. Now, of course, they were inundated with games, but I restricted the amount of time they could play in a day. But I took them out like my kid. I don't know if you remember this, Ben, because he actually was into it when you were here. But he was really into geology, collecting stones.
Mm.
So I leaned into it,
Mm, yeah.
right? I leaned into it. I got him a monthly subscription to D'Agostini, which is a Japanese company that it produces all kind of collectible things for kids, science based and things like that. And he got a whole big collection of rocks. I take him out in the mountain. I bring the daughter along as well, even though she wasn't interested. And we go find rocks and we try to come back and identify them. You remember Jackson, right? Jackson is actually a geologist. And Jackson gave him
That's
one.
right.
Yeah, he gave him those little geologist magnifying glasses, the little spinnyerettes they have. He gave him one of those, right? And
Cool.
so I
And
leaned.
I'm guessing it didn't stick.
Well, no, he still is very well. It did stick. He's an engineer. He's interested in
Okay.
science. He's still in a master program, but he has a job already, Ben, and his job
Mhm.
is when he of course he has to go through training and stuff. But what his job's going to be is he goes to a company and they say, okay, we're a laboratory and we need to do this, this, and this. So he sets up all the equipment they need. He creates a diagram set up for the room space and how everything can be laid out. He gets it all prepared. He does all the transactional stuff, and then a team comes in and does it. So he's a lab setup guy.
Cool.
Interesting.
It is cool. And my daughter, I leaned into it with her as well. I really think she should have leaned into her talents because she's quite artistic. But she didn't. But she went into pharmaceutical chemistry. Okay, right?
Nice.
But I mean, we really should lean into it with these kids. But you got the average American kid just wants to be famous, and it's dumb. And it's like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah. No, that is a brain drain problem.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why that would be the case. Obviously, it'd be very based on the kid and their situation. But this is one of the reasons why I think our media becoming less aspirational. Too what's the word I'm looking for? Too,
Stupid.
I guess we'll just, well, yeah, but trying to be too non-fantastical, right? Not realistic, but not have this fantastical quality to it, where it pushes you to aspire. It became too much about certain things that are happening around you and things like this, and we've kind of seemingly anyway lost a lot of the aspirationalism that largely made America a wonderful place to be.
Oh yeah, it used to be an incredibly
that
innovative country.
that whole spirit is
Still is probably.
there. I think it's teetering. Let's put it that way.
Well,
And I think that's dangerous. I think these things do matter, and they don't matter. It's not readily apparent why it matters because who cares, right? Well, you say that, but then you have generations of narcissistic people, and they only care about themselves, and they only care about
Yeah.
glorifying them.
that is true.
And now you're where we are now, where we have, like you said, all they want to do is be famous,
Yeah,
and that's just
it is weird. Well,
it's heartbreaking, is what it is. It's like
right. Well, I mean, Earth is still. I mean, on Earth, America is still the hub. So you get a lot of people who
yeah,
want opportunity come in, and science is still rolling. I'm sure, but or engineering and all that kind of stuff. But the other thing that's weird to me is how important it seems to be who you're having sex with. And it's like, God, that's
yeah,
boring. I mean, how boring is that? I mean, yeah, sex
yeah,
is great. It's part of the human experience for sure, but there's more important shit to be doing, man, than worrying about who you're fucking. I mean, God
yeah,
damn it, dude.
yeah.
It's weird. It's just bizarre.
Especially like you said, we have at our fingertips the greatest that we know of, greatest trove of knowledge to ever exist. You can go online and learn pretty much anything you want to learn,
Anything, dude. Yeah.
and it doesn't even take that long to get access to it. It might take a while to learn it, but it doesn't take that long to get access to it. And
No.
yet,
Yeah.
what do they want to do? What do they want to be? PewDiePie or whatever, right?
Right.
They want to be internet famous or actually famous, and that's just it's pathetic. That's the
Yeah,
best.
it is.
It's the
Well,
best word for it. It's just pathetic.
yeah, and sometimes the things are are complicated, more difficult, and you have to get past that brain pain. Sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Just work, push at it. I just mentioned my kids, and my kids are a good example. With my son, he's actually a very smart human being. He's
Hmm.
really intelligent. My daughter, however, is average Japanese girl, right? She's average.
Hmm.
However, what she is studious beyond belief. I mean,
Yep.
ridiculously studious, scary level studious, right? And therefore, even though she's an average person in this country, which that 105 IQ, 106, something like that, right?
Hmm.
She's average. She's not like her brother, but she's a pharmaceutical chemist for fuck's sake, dude.
You're right.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
just about applying yourself, right? The
that's right.
boy becoming an engineer or something like that doesn't surprise me because the boy is brilliant. I've never worry about the boy, but my daughter, because I was like, okay, what's she going to do with herself? Well, she did great, and it's just about applying herself. She's in a scientific field that most people would consider you have to be super smart. I imagine most aren't. And Ben probably can
Right.
attest to this, Ben. How many people around you in occupations that would be considered for smart people are actually just normal people who are hardworking?
Yeah, in my field, it's kind of like the two blend, right? Because there are
Mm.
certainly brilliant people, like some of the
Sure.
smartest I've ever met, and they're the ones who like are literally designing the cloud.
Right.
But then there's other people who they are, like you said, very dedicated, very studious, just very um, involved, right? And so and then if you get one that's the person who's kind of like changes the world. Is the person who's both the person who
Oh
is
yeah.
super studious, super dedicated, and also super brilliant, and they're the ones who invent like Bluetooth or create like the new SSDs or NVMe
Right.
Mark II cards and stuff like they're the ones who change technology and in changing technology change the world.
Right. Yep,
Yeah, no, it's true.
I agree
It
with
is
them.
true. Yeah. I'm going to get on to the show, but I do have a quick question for you, Ben, just to let me know. I do have
Sure.
a GeForce GTX 1040, 1020 Ti, I think it's called. 1020 Ti, I
Mhm.
think is what it is. And
Yep.
it cost me $1,000 many years back when I bought it. Is that still viable, or do I need to update?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're into like the 380s now, right? I think in my laptop I've got a 370M. The 1020i, I mean, it was pretty good at the time, and you'll still get some use out of it. But the new stuff that they have coming out, the technology changes. They're doing, more flops per, cycle.
Right, right.
So what I would wait for though is they're doing this new model to where they're locking down CPU or they're locking down GPU processing in like farm mode, right? Because they're trying to
Okay.
get away from the because that's the problem is the why they're so expensive now is because the Bitcoin miners use because GPUs now have more power than your CPU and your like RAM combined,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And it's like a computer within your computer dedicated for your graphics processing, right? And that's why they're so expensive. And Bitcoin miners are using these things to just churn through the algorithm to get another Bitcoin, right? And that's why they're so expensive now is because they bought up the market. But in opposition to that, companies like Nvidia and stuff are like, listen, we're going to release a card for your that optimizes for your mining, but we're also going to release a gaming card that is like hard locked at the hardware level to not be good for Bitcoin mining. Right? We want this to be a video card for gaming,
Yeah, yeah. That's what
not
I
for
want.
like
That's what
mining.
I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so those are starting to hit the market and they're helping drop the prices.
I see. How long? So basically, you're saying I should wait, hold on.
Yeah, let the ones come out. It's going to drop the prices a little bit more, but I would start looking at potential upgrades
Well, I
if
do
you're
use
still.
NVIDIA, so
Yeah.
yeah.
AMD does, or what was it? Is it AMD? I think it's AMD that I'm looking at, but there's another one that does like some decent video card price stuff as well. But um, yeah, I would just hold off just a little bit, but like um, definitely think about it because it's the face of gaming's changing a little bit, and it would be nice to be a little bit upgraded. The other thing that, again, like I was saying, is looking at like something that supports an NVMe 2 card,
Hmm.
the Mark II cards. A lot of things are now becoming so. There's a difference in being like I/O bound versus being CPU bound, and that means that your game does a disproportion of its like like load bearing on either the CPU or your hard drive, and because the GPUs are becoming so good, there's less like load on the CPU per se, and it's the hard drive, like the read and write of the hard drive, because these games are getting huge, right? 50, 60, 70 gigabytes, and it's
Yeah,
becoming
that's true.
really important to read the hard drive really fast. And an NVMe 2 card, holy shit, those cards are so fucking fast.
Yeah.
Um, what was that, Thundera?
No, I was agreeing with you. Yeah, they're really fast.
Yeah. And so for a lot of games, getting onto an NVMe 2 card, that will drastically increase the quality of life for your game. Right? That
Okay.
in combination with a decent amount of RAM, and if you have like 16 gigs, you're probably fine. But the GPU plus the smoking fast hard drive, that will like just increase the quality of life so much for you from a gaming
Oh,
perspective.
my RAM is way more than that for my
Well,
yeah, it's way higher, way more gigs than 16.
yeah, and that's fine, and that does a great job, right? But like I was saying, like so much is loaded on the GPU now on the
I
graphics
see.
processor. Like
I see.
it has its own dedicated RAM outside of like the RAM that you're using for just on your motherboard, right?
Well, the
So
thing's bigger than
they're
my freaking laptop, dude, for goodness sake. It's gigantic.
right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is like you have a computer inside your fucking computer, right? That's like dedicated for like just playing your video games. So
Cool. Well, I'll have to keep up with you because one of the few avenues I have to spend money, Thundero, is
Hmm.
because the computer is my only connection with the outside world because I live in a little fishing village in frickin' Japan, right? The countryside of Japan. My wife never complains about any computer stuff I do, right? So I can actually spend money on the computer without much fuss from the lady.
His
So
permission.
I do, I
He's
do,
permitted
I
to.
do.
That's
Well,
good.
here in Japan, women control the money. They actually do all the
Yeah,
financing and economics.
they
It's
do a lot
interesting.
here. Now. They do a
Well,
lot here
well, I
too.
mean, they kind of should, as long as she's responsible. They're the ones that are spending
What?
80% of all the money.
Well, that's the rub, isn't it? As long as she's responsible.
Oh, I got a super responsible lady with me.
Well, I was going to say earlier, but you guys started talking about computers. It sounds to me like, obviously I've never met them, but it sounds to me like your daughter takes after you more and your son takes after your wife more.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
no, it is true. That is true. My daughter is way too much like me, and no, and therefore I understand her pain. But
Yep.
see, the problem is the thing is she hasn't yet realized yet, and she needs to get a grip on it. Is because she doesn't like people. Mm.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
But the problem is the world is full of them.
They're everywhere. They're a
Yeah.
pestilence. That's what they
So
are.
you kind of have to learn, and I get that. I get that. Humans irritate me because most of them are
Yes.
brain dead and stupid, and it's
Oh,
annoying.
they're so dumb.
It's walking
So
through a
dumb.
miasma, but I do understand it. But there's a couple things you need to figure out with that. Like I said, the world is full of people. But secondly, you need to keep your ego in check, right?
Yes.
And that's a very important thing for a happy life is to keep your
Yeah.
ego in check, whatever that may be. We're all good at something. We're all good at
The
something.
secret to that is to be grateful.
Yeah.
Remind yourself often. Just make that something. If you have an ego problem, genuinely, this is genuine advice. If you have an ego problem, whatever it is, if it's narcissism or temper or whatever, remind yourself that most likely your life's pretty good. Especially if you're living in a Western country, your life's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
good.
Oh yeah.
Just try to just keep yourself grounded. Keep reminding yourself as the old saying goes, count your blessings. That is to temper that arrogance, that tendency to pride, especially a lot of people who are hard workers or who are really intelligent can tend to that very easily.
Mhm.
And the way to tend that garden is to remind yourself to try to stay humble. Stay humble. It's something that some people just are. They're just humble people by nature. Some people have to work at, but if you stay humble and you stay grateful, you're going to be a lot happier in life.
It's true. You know that old expression that if you're on stage and you're scared, just imagine everyone's naked in front of you. That one.
Yes.
I do something similar. I just imagine everybody's little puppies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works.
See, I couldn't do that because then I'd want to pet them, and that would get weird.
Yeah, it would get
That would get
weird.
wild.
Although
Yeah.
the old ladies like to pet my belly. Damn it. I don't. But it's less now because I don't have my belly really anymore. I'm actually
Yeah,
starting.
mine's pretty much gone too. Mine's pretty
I
much
It's
have.
gone
still
too.
good
I've got
luck.
to
What do you say, Ben?
Petting your belly is still good luck.
It is good luck.
Oh,
Yes, I am a
true.
Buddha. But I actually have lost all that weight. I actually am. I actually have definite starting to get definition on the side of the abs. On the side,
Uh-oh.
not in the middle.
He's getting
The
dad bod.
side. The
Full-on
side.
dad bod.
Yeah.
Chester's in there.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into
Are we
it.
going to talk about comic books at
We
any
are.
point?
Well,
I
we're
just
just having
wonder.
fun, man. We're goofing off and having a good time. I'm enjoying myself. I do like talking about science and tech. It's fun, right? But yeah, no, we need to get into it, so I'm going to go ahead and do so. Alrighty then. So yeah, we need this one right here. This is going to be great fun. You guys are going to love this because the morons are loose. That is
Morons are loose. Yes,
They
I did
are.
see this.
Yes.
Mighty Morphin Power Ranger star Austin St. John arrested for government pandemic loan fraud.
Okay. Now, we've talked about this a little off and on, right? Because we saw a fraud going on in the hospitals, for instance, with them claiming more patients as COVID because they got some kind of kickback on that. We saw some of that going on. We still don't know how widespread that was. Some people are saying it was amazingly widespread. Others are saying it's less. But we know some of that was going on. So there's
Yep.
definitely, but that always happens. People always trying to get a quick buck. But this guy now Austin St. John. Now he's from way back, Ben, and you too. You guys are the same age.
Yep.
That's
Oh, yeah.
your generation of Power Ranger, right?
Yep. That's my wife was just in here. She said, "Wait, our Red Ranger?" I said, "Yep."
Yes. So
Yeah, that's him, Mr. Austin, the partially American Indian man,
oh, there you go.
Austin St. John.
But he transferred money in regards to paycheck protection programs,
Yes.
and I don't want to get into the whole detail of all of this. And it's like $400,000 is not nothing. But what I really wanted to talk about more, other than this specific St. John guy, is all the potential fraud that was going on during the pandemic, right?
Wow.
Because we know there's always fraud going on all the time. Like I said, people always trying to make a quick buck, and there's all kind of fraud happening all the time. But it seemed during the pandemic that there was a lot more of it going on. Now, do you think that was just because the government was just kind of just leaking out trillions of dollars, and therefore
That's
it's
part of
just
it.
a bonanza, or was it something more insidious?
Well, it could have been something more insidious. That's harder to prove, but I think typically, like you said, the simplest answer is the correct one,
Yeah.
and the government was largely just giving away money left, right, and center. And yeah, of course, people are going to take advantage of that and commit fraud. Everybody kind of knew that was going to happen. There have been a lot of people who've been busted through the PPP program, and just like the extra unemployment they were giving out. So that's kind of par for the course and something you unfortunately expect when there's effectively not blank, but pretty dang close to blank checks being handed out from the government. Of course, people are, unscrupulous people are going to take advantage of that. And some of them weren't even necessarily unscrupulous. They just, they were wrong in the way they went about it. And of course, the government comes after it like it's fraud, and usually those people just have to find a way to pay it back if they can.
Right.
But this seems like it was more than just oops. This was an
Right.
organized activity by a whole bunch of people. And yeah, unfortunately, our Red Ranger got caught up in it.
Yeah.
I don't know how culpable he was. I don't know how involved in it he was. He may have just been basically a patsy for this other person, this ringleader of it.
Right.
But
Right.
regardless, yeah, it was pretty widespread, and I know this because unfortunately, a few months ago, my father passed, and I was the one who was tasked with going to the bank and settling his investment accounts,
Sure. Yeah.
and handling all that with the account manager, and I could tell he had a day. And one of the things he had was he had people coming in there getting mad at him because the government was asking him about their PPP loans, like he had anything to do with it. And basically, he was laying it out for me that there was so much fraud. You can't even imagine.
Yeah.
People would come in here and they're rolling up in new Lamborghinis and all this stuff, and it was money they were getting from the government. They just started a business like 2 months before, or a month before, or sometimes even a week before, he said, and the government would approve a PPP loan for him, a PPP check for him, a huge one, and then they just shut the business down. Like he said, it was all over the place at the height of that, when they were, especially with the CARES Act, when they really started that program up. So yeah, I firmly believe it was widespread, and we're probably going to be dealing. The government's even said they're going to be dealing with this for years, trying to clean this up.
Well,
So
it's the way it goes, and I do have a little bit of right. I just don't
right.
like it. However, my wife is not me, and in particular, my Eikaiwa, my English school. Um, we certainly saw a downturn. I mean, everyone did.
Right.
It wasn't really as much a downturn as losing students. We didn't have that problem. Actually, my retention rate is super high. The problem is we had a lot of kids graduate high school, right? And we didn't get
Mm-hmm.
new students in. And that was it was just not because people are afraid, right? And so we didn't get a lot of new students, and therefore it didn't offset that big chunk of kids leaving. So that was a loss of like over $1,000 a month, 2,000 maybe, 2,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a downturn, but I have so many little modes of money making that I don't really sweat it, right? Because
Right.
it is what it is, and I didn't really care, but my wife really did, and she wants to get some of that money that the government here in Japan is offering, right? For
Sure.
losses of percent, I think we were down 30% or something like that.
Oof.
And yeah, no. But like I said, I have other revenues flow, so
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. So she wanted to do that, and I really didn't want to, but she gave me that look, so I signed it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going about it, but the thing is, they become very, because I didn't do it last year, right? It's right now that she's doing it, and but there was so much fraud that was going on here in Japan with this, these same thing, the PPE loans, or the pandemic monies, that it became super super strict. But she's really good at all that paperwork, and she literally has I don't know, it's got to be half a foot of paperwork
Oh
she
my
did.
gosh.
Yeah. But she's going through that process, but it's become so much more complicated here because of all the fraud that was going on, and they've really
Yeah.
tightened it up. So I have a little bit of a understanding of that, kind of.
Which is weird because I know. So the business I used to run, he's still operating, but I'm not involved in it anymore. But he couldn't get anything. He tried, and the government just kept turning him down. And it was an essential business because we did HVAC and stuff too.
Right.
So people need heat. Can't just not have heat living where I live. Um, so it was essential, and he had a hard time. I don't think he ever got a single dime to help him out, which is
Mm.
weird because he tried. I know he did. I helped him with some of the paperwork, and they just weren't giving it to. It was a very strange system. I don't really know how people took advantage of it so easily because they clearly did. But
Connections.
probably
Yeah.
connections, or they used like a financial lawyer or something like that to help them set it up. Um, but yeah, no, it was bad. It was widespread, and like I said, they're still cleaning it up. But that's what happens when the government's like, yeah, we'll pay your bills for you.
They shouldn't.
Of course, people are going to take advantage of that.
There's better ways to promote
Yeah.
circulation. But Ben, I'm curious your take on this because I don't know, but I'm assuming that the business you work in is highly scrutinized.
Well, yeah. For most.
Can't really hear you, dude.
Okay, not.
Mm-mm.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Kinda.
What up?
Better.
No.
No.
No. Hmm. It was working so well.
It was. I don't know what happened.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, there you go. There you go. You're clear now.
Okay.
Okay.
I was laying on the wrong head. So,
Okay.
or the wrong side of my head. I must have been covering up the mic. The company I work for is already under a lot of scrutiny. It's a major
Yeah.
Fortune 500 company, right? And then the division I'm in has even more scrutiny because of the government interaction at the federal level, right? So I'm under constant scrutiny for everything that I do, right? You know, from both a normal business practice, but also from like a financial impact and, you know, working with the feds on a daily
Probably
basis, right?
personally too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you talked about the PPE loans, like I remember my wife does like contract work for like one of the realtors in our neighborhood. And when all this stuff was going down, the woman that she contracts with was giving a lot of pressure to her saying like, oh, you should apply for one of these, you know, independent contractor, like, you know, PPE things. And my wife was asking me about it. She's like, do you think I should do it? And I was like, no, like you know, my job is perfectly fine. We're making tons of money, right? You know, like this would be way inappropriate for you to take because like we're not impacted by this like whatsoever, right?
Right.
And like it would be like crazy for you to take this because like 90% of our income or 95% of our income comes from like my work, right? And so like you taking this would just be weird, right? But they were, you know, trying to tell people to take these things. And the other problem was is that like they were trying to they didn't do as much means testing or any means testing that they should have done because they were trying to be quick, they were trying to be agile because they were worried about financial impact, right? But like that's part of the problem though is like because they could have gone in the opposite direction. It was so means tested that people didn't get the help that they needed when they needed it, and it could have caused a different level of financial impact. So like it's really hard in that situation. Like, what is the right choice? Obviously, they didn't make the right choice, right? But
Right. Yeah.
it's a lesson to be learned for the future when that, you know, because this will probably happen again,
They
right?
won't
You know, at some
learn.
point.
This has happened many
Well,
times, dude. Don't you remember Papa Bush? They will learn
Yeah.
nothing. Obama. I mean, just you know, dude. And thing is, you know, the funny thing about that, Ben, it's not partisan.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah.
No, yeah.
Democrats
When it started up, I mean, pretty much everybody was on board with what was happening at the federal level. There were a few naysayers out there, right or wrong, who were against it. But even I was like, yeah, they got to do something. And it was largely because we were told, and what we had seen coming out of Italy and China, that this was Black Plague bad. Like this is, if you get it, you're in serious trouble. And as we learned more and more and learned that for the most part, for most people, it's more than manageable. It's fine. Um, it became clear to me that I think a lot of people overreacted at first, but largely it
Yeah.
wasn't. It's really unfair to look back and be like, hey, yeah, you guys were all stupid, or we were all stupid because we just didn't know. We didn't have the knowledge.
Well,
And
to be fair, though, I think by the time it got to us, it had mutated into a much softer version because those
that's
initial
probably
hits we
true.
were covering in 2019, if you remember, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was showing video and I was showing stuff. It was absolutely smashing China, dude. It was
Yeah.
obviously much stronger, and America got hit by the European side of it, right?
Right.
And Italy certainly got hit, but as time went by, it's constantly mutating. And by the time it got to
Right.
America, it was just way softer, right?
Comparatively.
Yeah, comparatively, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
it's a shame. It's part of the problem of big government is because it's so big, it's slow, and or when it makes fast moves, it almost always makes the wrong ones.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just the nature of the beast, and I don't know what the answer to it is. Some people say, well, we just need smaller government and this and that. Maybe, but I don't know if a smaller government would have been able to handle at any level what was necessary at the start of the pandemic. Like, for all of Trump's faults, what he did with a lot of the stuff that he did with, like, the vaccine projects and the using I can't remember the name of the act, but using the act to get respirators made and other PPE made as quickly as he could. A small government can't do that.
Well, no,
And
I disagree. The small government, because what a small government does is they say, well, it's the state's responsibility. Therefore, how can the federal government help? So what the federal
yeah,
government does is give tax relief to the state, right? Meaning not money, just reduce taxes to the federal government, a certain percentage for a certain period of time. Therefore, giving an influx of more money to the state and let the state manage it. That's what a small
yeah.
government would do. I just, sorry.
But no, you're right. I mean, there are other options, of course. But I mean, we can get lost in the weeds with that. But the reality of it is, this PPP program, which is the one he took advantage of, or allegedly took advantage of, largely did help a lot of places keep their doors open. Right? I know
Okay.
for a fact personally that a whole lot of places would have went under without it. So there's good and there's bad. I think the fraud was bad, but I don't think it outweighed the good. Because I know a lot of people, myself included, all these stimulus checks we got helped me pay off a whole bunch of debts. Like, that's what I used them for. I just got myself out of debt mostly, and I'm in a much better financial situation
Uh,
because of it. So I think, and there's evidence that was, I'm not the only one. There was a lot of Americans who did that, who paid
yeah.
debts down using that
Well,
money.
I'm very, very strict about that. I do not allow myself to take debt. I don't do that. I don't know why I'm terrified of doing that. I don't know exactly what they're. Maybe it was my parents, but I don't allow myself to get debt. But like I said, I didn't take any of the opportunities. I didn't even want to take this one my wife's doing because I don't really think we need it. But whatever, whatever.
well, I'm
Here's
glad I
my
talked
here's
my wife out of it. So
Yeah. Yeah, here's my philosophy on it overall is if they're giving it away and you are qualified for it, I mean, yeah, it's your call, but they're going to give it to somebody, and we all know that they're not just going to give it back. so
Right.
so you might as well, if you can get it, because I really it'd be nice if we lived in the system you're talking about, Chester, where it's the way you said, but we
Efficient.
don't.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of take care of yourself too. At the end of the day, you got to always remember that you got to look out for you. Well, Japan's government might be different, but the American government definitely ain't looking out for you. So you got to look out for you as much as
Well,
possible. Do it within in the law, but as much as you
sure.
can.
Well, I think in Japan you're allowed to look after yourself more. You're just allowed to. Where in America they want to micromanage everything. But Ben, I understand because I think exactly the same way you do. But my wife literally came to me with a file that was thicker than Lord of the Rings trilogy.
yeah, I know, and then
Yeah.
like for me, it was a bit of a moral objection, right? Thundero and I get into some debates, politics and economics and stuff like that, and I'm really a believer in like live what you preach, and
Oh yeah.
so
Me too.
I would feel like I couldn't preach some of the morality that I do in our debates if I didn't live it. And I couldn't justify it. I don't want to get gross with the numbers, but I make a really good living. I am paid very well for what I do, right? And part of that's because I work in the private industry and that I'm in a major, gigantic company and stuff like that. And I just couldn't justify,
Yeah. No,
like,
I
it just
understand.
didn't make any sense, right? Like we
Right.
are perfectly fine and comfortable
Yeah.
with our life. Even I got a raise during the pandemic, and I got a promotion and like rewards and stuff like that. Like I
Must be
felt
nice.
almost kind of, I felt gross because like I knew people who were having trouble, and I was like
Well,
making
you want to
even more
know? You
money
want
than
to you want to feel bad? You want to feel terrible? My wife was literally working in the pandemic wards in the local hospital, and for the first 6 months of COVID, she got nothing. Nothing.
right.
Nothing from the
Yeah,
government, nothing from the company that she worked for, nothing. So she quit,
right.
and now she's making way better money at a different job. But yeah, she got completely shafted
Yeah.
by
Well,
everybody involved.
one of the reasons I did say yes, because I agree with you 100% on that. But one of the reasons I said yes, and I don't understand why she put all the effort in, because you know what the check she's looking to get is? You know how much it is?
How
I don't.
much?
$3,000.
Hmm.
And that's why in the end I was like, go ahead, right? Because
That's
Right?
why
I
are
mean,
you putting all that
whatever.
work in for $3,000? I don't know.
Yeah, that's not really much of anything. So
No, it's not.
Well, that is Chester. That is a good video card, though.
that is.
Right?
Yeah.
See? Yeah.
No, I told her. No, I told her to put the money toward. It doesn't matter, but I specifically told her to earmark that money for my son's tuition.
Oh,
Well, there you
see, what a responsible dad.
But because she was trying to convince me because she knows how I am. So I put a couple of caveats in, but she's having fun. I don't know, but you
go.
let her do what she's doing because it's not a big amount of money. If it was like 20, 30 grand, I would have balked, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move on. But man, there's a lot of that going on. An interesting conversation. Fallout from government stupidity. Are we ever going to get out from under it? Nope, nope. But continuing along with the Power Rangers, though.
Old death and taxes, Chester. There's no escaping it. Boom! You got to say it like that. You see the exclamation
You
point?
do.
Boom! Studios Power Rangers series to introduce new Death Ranger. Creator Paul Adler confirms villain's entire species is non-binary. Oh joy!
Okay, now there's a couple things with this. If you're into Power Rangers, I suggest you go read this article actually, or another article about it, because it sounds like what they're doing. Because the Power Ranger comic is kicking ass from Boom. It just is, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
awesome.
way better than that TV show. It's way better.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's actually cool. And if you go read what they're doing with this race and this ancient, they used to be part of the Rangers and now they're becoming enemy of the Rangers. But if you go read what they're doing, it sounds pretty neat. It sounds like it's going to be fun, actually. And the thing it gets me, and of course this is what got Bacali here, is them using the word non-binary. But
Mhm.
I don't understand this new lingo because we have words that would
We
apply.
do have words. That's accurate.
Asexual, androgynous.
Yeah.
Is it just a genderless species or something like that? Because like we've had that before in a lot of like sci-fi and
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
no, we have, and it sounds like they're just an asexual species, meaning they either
Okay. Yeah.
reproduce individually or every one of them they're hermaphroditic, maybe, and that's
Right.
probably it's one or the other, right? I don't really know, but the thing is, we have words for this. We have words. Why do we need another word? I don't understand why we need a new word because a lot of these new words I keep hearing, we already have words or they're overlaying words they already have. I don't understand the new lingo because it doesn't make sense.
Special snowflakes, Chester.
Is
That's
it
why.
that simple? Is it really
I think
that
so.
simple?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I think certain people, really want to feel unique or you have that feeling of uniqueness. And I think that's why you see things like this ridiculous cacophony of genders that they've tried to make official in many ways.
And they overlap
It,
incredibly. They're all the same thing, really.
yes, I know. Well, non-binary would cover pretty much all of them. I mean, when you stop and
Well,
think about
it's
it, if it's
just
not one or the other, then it's non-binary, right?
Well, yeah, it's just androgyny. It's a
Yeah,
word we've
Right.
had forever, and it's nothing new. I mean, shit.
no,
Some of the greatest theater plays you can go watch, like Kaji Falls and various things, are full of Mister or that kind of stuff. It's been going on forever, dude. I went to Thailand, 30
mhm.
years ago, for nearly 30 years ago for my honeymoon. And we went, and there's a super famous show where the lady, it's all women, and they do the women and the male roles. It's a very famous theater show. We went and watched it, and it was pretty good. That's nothing new. This has been going on for hundreds of years. I don't understand why we need all these new weirdy words. And this thing with Bacali here, of course, is bounding into comics, and they like to get on the outrage train because that's their thing.
Yeah.
I get get it. But it's really no outrage in this, and I don't even understand why Paul Allor even needs to, lean into it. Okay, maybe you mentioned in some paragraph offhand that they're a hermaphroditic species or something. Oh, fine, but that's not the point. These guys are murdering the world.
Right. He's called the Death Ranger for crying out loud.
If it makes you feel any better, like within the LGBT community, like a lot of these same conversations are happening where they're like, "Are we just trying to give special identity to kinks? Is that all we're doing?"
That's exactly what they're doing, dude. You did hear
Right,
about the
and then
monkeypox is coming out of a. Now get this. Over in Belgium, which of course is fucking Belgium, there was a 5-day event in the dark region or dark forest or dark something. And it's a bunch of gay dudes getting together having sex for 5 days while dressed up like puppies and horses. And they spread monkeypox.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
sounds like a
it is
normal
all about
weekend.
kink.
But but my point being is like, within the LGBT like flag, they're like trying to give like, oh, and this is for the people like the BDSM people. Like, do we need that as an identity? Like, isn't that just like a sexual preference thing? Like, what does that need to be
Yeah.
called out as like an
Yeah.
identity thing, right? And so
Right.
my point is somebody I think who's a bit closer to that community than you guys are.
Sure.
A lot of these same conversations are happening where they feel like they're being lost in the messaging because the messaging is becoming muddied in the waters by oversaturation of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
When is it? Because if you think back into the day, the message is very easy and very clear. Like, gay rights, have the rights to marriage, have the rights to legal rights for each other, like normalize it, and that
Yeah.
was an easier
Simple.
message, and
Done.
we all understood. Yeah, very simple, right? Now, and I. And you could say largely due to the success of gay pride and homonormativity and stuff like that. But like, I think there's a lot of other entities that are kind of jumping on that bandwagon, trying to like ride the waves of success. And even within the community, a lot of people are asking like, what is our messaging becoming? Are we getting lost because we're allowed like too much is trying to sort of like clout farm the waves of success, right? And then the other thing is like stuff like this, like obviously this wasn't being like this from what you're telling me. I don't know anything about it, but the indications you're telling me is that Boom isn't like really advertising this as being like specifically a non-binary thing. It just happens to be a trait of the species.
Right.
But then this article writer is writing it in this way, not as a cloud farming thing, but as like an aggression farming thing, because he knows that there's people who are against that and that they want to get angry just at the mention of it, right?
On both sides.
It actually,
yes, of course.
so this becomes like a double-edged sword, where like there is no winning this scenario, right? And it's hard to, and then it makes the conversation just so much more difficult to have about LGBT rights, because like all this other shit just kind of gets like lumped on top of it, which the vast majority of the community does not want, right? So like a good example are like furries. Furries want to be involved in the LGBTQ community, and they don't want it because right, they don't. They're like, we don't like. You're not a part of this movement. Like, no, you're not. Like, no,
you're weird. All right, stop being weird. Just listen. If you want to be normal, but don't be weird and then glom on. No, just go be weird over there. It's just over there.
Yeah. So this is I equate it to like the Latinx thing, right? Where people are using the phrase Latinx to be politically correct, but then many people who are members of that community hate the phrase Latinx because it doesn't fit.
Nearly all.
Yeah,
right.
Big number.
And I know a lot of them who hate it, because they're like, it doesn't apply to us because it's a very broad brush that they're painting with that. But also, it doesn't make any sense within the heuristics of our language, right? And so yeah, it's just one of those things that I think it just needs to kind of be like figured out over time. That time will kind of like shake off all of the hanger-oners, and eventually the message will get cleared again.
No,
right?
and I can see that they're having a problem with that because it's out of control. There's a lot of things that are out of control. Sensibility is out the window. But with this thing, we don't really know what creator Paul Allor is doing. If we get three solid books in a row where the Death Ranger is trying to get it on with Red Ranger, okay, fuck off, Paul Allor. But if it's like one throwaway thing where they're researching this, who in the hell are these people? And they find it in the database and they're like, oh no, they're hermaphroditic species. Oh, no. If it's like that, then what the fuck is
Or
the
they just
noise about?
self reproduce or something, right? Yeah, they
Or
just
asexual,
they're,
right? I mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So we don't know. I mean, it could be stupid, but I don't think Boom would do that. We know Boom. Boom won't do that. They want to make
Well,
cool
especially with this
shit.
property, especially
Yeah.
with this specific property, they haven't leaned into any of that stuff hard at all. And
No.
the Power Rangers comics, if like Chester said, if you've ever liked Power Rangers, you should at least that first run, especially,
Oh yeah.
you should read it. It's
Oh, dude.
fantastic,
I hate Power
fantastic.
Rangers. They're stupid. That's like for 3-year-olds. I hate the Power Rangers, but I love
Yeah,
this freaking comic book. And I'm telling you, you
yeah,
go read it. This thing sounds cool, dude. This sounds
yeah,
cool. So, but I put this up here because it connected to the first one, of course. But I also put it up here for the conversation that Ben, took a hold of. Thank you very much for
yeah,
that soft toss, because there's a problem on both sides, and I think we do need to keep in mind. I know we kind of goof off and joke around here a lot, but there are people who are vitriolically serious on both sides, right? And
yeah.
this kind of thing, but from Macaulay, is clickbaiting. I
Yeah,
feel,
it's outrage marketing.
yeah,
That's all it is. Outrage marketing. The only reason people do it is because it works.
yeah,
Simple
Right.
as that. And if it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. And I hope it's starting to wind down. I don't. It's not as common as it was, especially in the big brands. You don't really see them out here poking too much as you did, say, 4 or 5 years ago, or 3 or 5 years ago. Which is a good thing because I hate outrage marketing.
yeah,
It's once you see it and know it, you start to really have a great disdain for it because all marketing is a form of manipulation. They're trying to get you to feel or think, but this just seems much more nefarious than other forms, right?
it
It's
is.
trying to make you feel a negative emotion, and
It
I don't
is.
like that.
Yeah, I don't
I don't
like it
like.
either. That's why we laugh at over here and have a goof because we're
Yeah,
having fun with it. But just to give an example, you say you think it's going away. I'm not sure. The new Doctor Who is not only is he a black dude, which is weird because Doctor Who should be a white, goofy, asexual, not asexual, a androgynous
yeah,
white Englishman. I mean, that's what
right,
the Doctor is. He's not sexual. He's literally not sexual. They put a sexy little companion in there to kind of cover that because he's not. But anyway, you got
mhm.
not only is he black, he's gay. He's super gay, right? He's like the
Super gay.
hi, he's that kind of gay. He's not the Dave Rubin gay, right? But his companion, get this, his companion is a black transgender dude.
Yeah, it isn't he, she, I don't know what the pronoun is.
I
Aren't
don't
they
give a shit.
playing Rose? From what I swear I
Yes,
saw an
yo,
article
it
that
is
said they're
Rose.
playing
It is
Rose.
Rose.
What?
Yes, it is Rose.
What?
So the entire cast is going to be black, and it's going to be entire cast gay, and they're going to have the doctor getting it on with that transgender. You know they are because they're morons. They don't understand that the doctor is not sexual. There has been references to kind of like Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is not sexual. He's not.
Right,
Although he did have with Adler a love. The doctor had a love. There was one in the past. It's not there for us now. It's in the past because that's not
right,
what the doctor is. Just like that's not what Sherlock Holmes is. They are intellectuals. They are analytical, right? But just an example of they're still poking it, and it's like you're not going to help the situation, dude. You're
no,
not going to help the
no.
situation by doing that. Now, if you
It's a
wanted
shame.
yeah, and
Such
just
a
do a
shame.
spit-off. Make another Time Lord that is different because not all the Time Lords don't have to be like the Doctor. They can be different.
Right.
The Master is a Time Lord. He's really different, right?
He was a
So
chick for a long time.
I guess they
Yeah.
tell me. But
Missy was cool though. Missy was a great interpretation of the Master. So
eh,
I'll defend Missy to the death.
you
That was a
can.
good.
I prefer the Mummy Leper. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're right. That's just like super, super fucking canon. So,
Come on, dude. That was a much cooler master back in the day with Tom Baker, man. Come on.
well, I mean, any references to Tom Baker's cheating, right? Because he's like the pinnacle of fucking doctor. So,
Man, you can't play the
I
Tom Baker card.
no, I'm fucking serious, right? So, so my interpretation of it is this, right? Out of any iconic figure, the one that is most conducive to change is literally the Doctor, because that is a core aspect of who he is. Um, as far as the like asexual thing, like I'll agree with that to a degree,
Not
but like the
asexual,
David,
androgynous, but I'm sorry.
well, androgynous, the David Tennant run really threw a lot of those rules out the window, though, because he was sexual in that, like
No, he
he
wasn't.
got it
Where?
on.
When?
He
How?
fell in love with Rose. He ran off and lived with Rose. Like there was they lived happily ever after in one of the realities, right?
Yeah, but
So
that's what I
like
mean. That's his Adler, though.
no, but it was a fully realized romantic relationship.
Yeah, but still,
Like
it's his Adler. In general, David Tennant was not sexual. In general, aside from that storyline.
no,
Well,
like he did a
to
lot.
Chester's
No, no,
point,
no.
to Chester's point, though, his last companion was a woman, and there was no hint of sexual
None.
tension between them at all.
Because that's the Doctor,
Yeah.
right? He had his great love, just like Sherlock Holmes had
Right.
his great love. But beyond that, they're not sexual at all.
In fact, that was kind of a running gag between those two. It was ridiculous, right? The idea for it. No, oh god, oh, it was gross to them. They both thought it was disgusting. I loved him, and I can't remember the character's name. It just blanked on me, but I absolutely loved
Bright
those
Knight?
two together.
Also, remember he was super flirty with Captain Jack. Like that was also an aspect of their
Yeah, but I
relationship.
mean, now let's be fair. Now, that is the face of Bo, right? And now,
Yeah.
how in the hell do you not be flirty with that? I mean, come on.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, it's natural. I completely understand. You get a
Yeah,
pass for
sure.
the face of
You get a
Bo, right?
pass for you
It's
get a
not,
pass for him.
it's
Yeah.
not gay if it's the face of Bo. I mean, come on, let's
Well,
just be real here.
right. But I mean, I'm
Uh,
Torchwood. I was really sad that they canceled that. I thought that was great, dude. Harkness was awesome. It was a great character.
Tor- Tor- and you know what was great about Captain Jack is that he, well, something that I don't think they took enough advantage of was that he was a masculine, like gay figure. Because too often I think when it comes to like gay icons, they're feminized,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah.
Captain Jack was a badass.
Honto,
He
yeah,
was a
real
gay
badass.
badass,
Yeah.
but he was a badass,
Yeah,
right?
but see, his
And
gay
so,
only came into a couple episodes, though. In general, he was just doing what he was doing. It wasn't about
yeah,
being gay. He just he was gay. That's it, right? And
well,
that's how you do that,
but
right?
well, yeah, but that's sort of like, but that's also how they do straight characters, right? And that was kind of the
Sure.
thing is they
Yeah.
they wrote him as a straight character, but he just happened to be gay, right? Like that wasn't like the end all be all of his identity. He happened to be gay, but he was also like a badass, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that sometimes what they miss in some of the more subtle aspects of the writing is that they will sometimes put the gay identity first and foremost on everything,
Well,
and
that's the
that's what
problem.
will make it,
Yeah.
and that's what will make it so hard for some people to approach the material sometimes, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I'll agree with you that I think Captain Jack was a great version of that type of character
Really good
that
character.
you
Yeah.
could, yeah, and in many ways, on equal footing with the Doctor. Like he was keeping pace with the Doctor for a lot of the stuff that he was doing, right? And so I just wish that was a character that they would have pursued a little bit more from a series perspective.
Yeah,
So
and that's another thing. They drop the ball a lot of these IPs where they already have established gay characters and they don't use them. It's weird.
yeah,
With our and sorry for the spoiler that Captain Jack Harkness actually is the face of Bo. I do apologize. But that's
Yes.
actually referring to a rugby nickname he got. I think it was. I think it was Rugby. Or was it cricket? No, I think it was rugby. But if you know Doctor Who, you know who the Face of Bo is. He's a very
Right.
important character. But
Yeah.
sorry for the spoilers. But Jack Harkness is a great character. But anyway, we do need to move on. Let's
I
get
did want
in.
to say one thing.
Yeah.
When he was talking about how we've kind of turned kinks into identities, or trying to, or sexualities. I think the problem is we have fetishized identity by making if I could say it, making fetishes personalities. And they're not. Like whatever you want to do sexually or whatever, that's your business, and cool, good on you. But it's not your personality. It's not, at least it shouldn't be. It's not
No.
all that
Yeah.
you are as a person. And because we've done that, because we've allowed this weird group of people, I guess, to take it to that extreme, now you have all these ridiculous amounts of genders that, one, either don't make any actual sense, or two, are basically just differing ways to say you're androgynous, right? Because they don't, for
Right.
some reason, that word isn't unique enough.
I don't know why. Yeah, it's weird. It's much better than non-binary. What the hell are we talking about?
Yeah, what are
Constellation.
you, a
Uh,
computer?
yeah.
What are you?
Yeah, me personally, I mean, I get involved in these conversations because it's fun, but I've never really understood kink. I never got it. I don't understand dress up, role play. I don't understand any of it because I don't see the need for it. What's the point? Just, fuck. I mean, I don't get it. I never got it. But maybe I'm just boring. I don't know. But
Glad you
anyway,
are.
yeah, I guess. But I know I'm not trying to be humorous. I'm serious. I never understood kink. It never comes into my mind. I mean, what's the I don't even what's the purpose of kink?
Mister, I don't think you wanted an answer to that question, but
Maybe not.
Yeah, let's not. I'll explain it to you off stream. How
Oh,
about that?
thanks, Ben. But anyway, let's move on. Boom.
Jurassic Park stars Laura Dern and Sam Neill question appropriateness of age gap in their on-screen relationship.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Now this is the article's not dumb, but the concept is dumb as shit. And Because look at them, they look like they're a couple. They were actually very good casting for appearance wise, and of course Sam Neill is awesome. He just checked that box. Awesome, checked.
He
But
gets the check.
He
Yep.
gets the check. Laura Dern is an insufferable bitch, but whatever. Sam Neill gets a check. However,
That's what makes them a great couple, Chester, right there.
there you go. Perfect. Opposing forces. I'll get into the thing in this article here in a minute, but just to kind of justify what I just said, I got a little secret. You guys can't tell anybody. Um, One of my students that I have a private class for, which I don't do a lot of private classes, right? Because one, I charge a lot for them and because you're taking up my time with one person, so I charge quite a bit. But nevertheless, I do have a one person, but it's this is the best reason to have a solo class. This guy translates movies into their subtitles, right?
Oh, cool.
And not only does he do the movies, he also does the interviews and stuff when they come into Japan. So I every week he comes in and we go over scripts and we go over stuff and I help him because his English is actually very good. The problem is, of course, is colloquial speaking, right? And
Yeah.
especially if it's a British movie, oh God, he has just fits, right? And I understand that, and luckily I do speak the British slangs, so I can help him out. And It's a lot of fun doing it. I really enjoy doing it because I don't know why. It seems like you're being naughty or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
But anyway, currently, recently, for the past few months, a couple months, we've been working on this movie, right? Now I'm not going to get any
Interesting.
details or anything like that because he's under an NDA. I will say this: I'll talk about the interview, not the movie. And In the interviews, because they get to translate those too, right? They're talking to the director and Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Chris Pratt, the whole cast, which you all know who they are now, so no spoilers. But Here's the thing: during the translation, You have the director who that dude really thinks he's an artiste. Let me just tell you the way he speaks. But you got him, you got Chris Pratt, you got Sam Neill, and you got Jeff Goldblum, right? All of those, and Jeff is Jeff. He's a weirdo, okay. But
Yep.
all of those guys, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing in that interview. They're promoting the movie. They're promoting the movie. They're promoting the movie, right? That's their job. I'm sure it
Yep.
must be in the contract, I would imagine, right? But they're doing it, and they're answering the questions, and they here or there. But it always comes back to promote. Oh, it's a great movie, great chemistry. Oh, the director's awesome. They're pushing the movie, pushing it as they should. All of them, every person, every interview, except one, Laura Dern. Her entire answers, no matter what the question was, it doesn't matter what the question was. It always comes down to how oppressed women are, and her in particular, horribly oppressed, and feminism, and all the stupid talking points we see just vomiting out of her mouth, just vomiting, right? And it didn't matter the question that the interviewer was asking. Every answer came back to her particularly and feminism, right? And she's freaking insufferable, dude. Insufferable. Everyone else is doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and promoting the movie. And I guarantee you that Jeff Goldblum is as liberal as you get. I guarantee it, right? But what Jeff Goldblum is a professional, right?
Yep.
And a very professional. And it's really telling because when you watch an interview, you listen to it. It's a lot of times it goes in one ear and out the other, right? But when you're reading a script and translating a script, you're too involved in it not to see the nuance of everything. And especially when I'm helping this guy, I have to sit down and explain, well, why did they use this word in this way? And I want to say, well, it's a metaphor, and this is how we use this metaphor, or this is how this language is interacting, or the simple rule in English, we never want to use the same word twice in the same idea, right? We don't like to do
Mm-hmm.
that, right? And so this is why they chose this word here. I have to, because these are the things that are difficult for a translator, is understanding the culture of a thing, not the
Right.
linguistics of it. And therefore, him coming to me is very useful for him, right? And I love being part of it because it's just fun. It's interesting for me because a lot of times my job is quite rote, as most jobs are. But this particularly, I really enjoy that time I have every week, helping and doing this. But it's shocking how absolutely vapid this woman is. My God, dude. My God. And this whole article is getting into the idea of how inappropriate it is because they're technically 20 years different. I know it's hard to tell from this picture, but they are. She is 20 years younger than him, he was a bit surprised because I guess they had the thing about old geezers in film with young people. Him and Sean Connery and others like that were on the list, and he was like, "What?" But here's the thing, though. It comes down. Oh, she's bitching about it. Of course, she's bitching about it, right? Because that's all she knows how to do is bitch. He was just like, "Oh, well, which is what Sam Neill does." But let me show you a current picture of the two, and you tell me if there's an age difference problem, okay? And now keep in mind, I chose good pictures for both of them. I didn't go dig in for because I could have chose much worse pictures for her. I could, and him
Mm.
too. I could have, but I didn't. I found good pictures of both of them right now. Now you tell me if there's a problem with their on-screen relationship. You tell me. So here we go with Sam first. All right, older dude. He's always been handsome. It's Sam Neill. He's a good looking fella. He's a good looking fella, but he's certainly older. Okay, it's a good picture of him. I could have picked some that were a little less, flattering. But this one looks good. That's Sam Neill, right? And now here is Laura Dern. Okay, once again, this is a good picture.
Ooh.
I did go and try to find a good picture of her because there are much worse. Go search it. You can go Google that yourself. But this is a good one. So now you tell me, looking at her and looking at him, her, him, her, him, is there any issue at all? Because
No.
she actually looks older than him, even though she's 20 years younger.
If you colored his hair, I would agree with you. I would say he looks younger because he's even though he's a lot older than her, he has less wrinkles. Now that could just be the way she has her face and the way he has
Well,
his, but
Well, because of
Yeah.
estrogen levels, men tend to age better than women anyway. As
Yep.
far as chemistry goes. But I'm just saying it's such a stupid a concept because you know it's fine. And that, of course, in the movie they got to have her make up to the nth degree, but it looks fine. And if you look at this picture from the original movie, they look fine. This is not an
Yep.
odd looking couple. You don't say, wow, she's really young. You don't get that concept. And I guarantee you Spielberg thought the same when he was casting, because one thing Spielberg is really good at is casting. He whether he does it or I know he's involved, but he probably has a casting agent he uses. But Spielberg's really good at that, of picking the right person for the role, right?
Right.
So I don't understand the entire insanity of this concept, because she's just so apologetic. Oh, I know it's so awful, and women just get so thrown to the side. Once we hit 30, we can't do anything. Well, baby, you're getting paid how many millions of dollars to be in a fucking movie looking like that? Are you kidding me?
Well, so I think her comments were more like around the original movie, the 20-year age gap at the original movie,
Right,
when
you're
she
right.
was early 20s and he was like in his 40s, which even then, I kind of don't give a shit, right?
Nope.
Like,
Yeah.
you're not a teenager. Like, you're definitely of the age of quote unquote consent, but not just that. Like, if you look at the original, like that screenshot right there, like, eh,
They look fine.
it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like he's in a walker and she's like walking around in like a schoolgirl, skirt or something like
Right.
that. Like,
Right.
Right.
like I
And
kind of just
besides,
don't give a shit.
it's a movie.
Yeah.
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 Right.
And it's a weird modern hang-up too, that people have. I mean, when we look back throughout history, even very recent history, it was very common, very typical, and even expected for a man in his age to marry somebody in their 20s.
Oh, it used to be normal. Yeah, it used to be normal.
Yeah,
That's true.
perfectly normal.
Well, because a man had to build up his sexual viability, his
Right.
sexual value. Women are born with it, right?
Right.
So yeah, it used to be that way. These days, we've kind of gotten closer and closer to each other's age. But there are many, many examples of this. But this argument is really, really dumb, and Ben's 100% right, because it doesn't look weird, right? It
No,
isn't
they look fine.
presented odd
Yeah.
whatsoever. Yeah, so God, but this lady irritates me though. This one, because
I can
I
tell.
have spent months translating her fucking shit, dude. Right? And
I
I
mean, they
can't.
said the thing is like in the original Jurassic Park, she would have been like 24, 25.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
even
that's
to the point where we're like, yeah, you're fully mentally developed, right?
Yeah.
You're a
right.
full fledged adult. So like, I kind of don't give a shit. Like
Yeah,
at that point,
but
right?
her character in the movie is not presented at that age. She's presented as 30 something because of her
She
career, in
really
which she's a master of, right? She's
no.
not
I
presented
mean,
as
like,
young.
so I saw this article before you presented it, and this is the screenshot they have, and like, gun to my head, I would have thought like, oh, maybe there's like 5 or 10 years difference between the characters, like as they're presented, like not 20, but even then, like again, yeah, she's like fucking, like 24, 25. Like, okay, yeah, like what the fuck? What's the?
Right.
Because when she says like apologize for it, like what's the implication there? Are you saying that it should be illegal?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
This is
Right.
like this is when I like Thundera and I get into some of these arguments because he's like will say stuff like like oh this shouldn't happen, like well what do you mean by that? Do you mean it should be illegal?
Yeah.
So when
Yeah,
she's
no,
saying
that's
stuff like
right.
this, I'm like
Yeah. That's right.
what are you implying?
Right.
Right? Are
And
you
yeah.
implying that like 18-year-olds aren't adults anymore and we shouldn't like so yeah, it gets really weird. Like what's the implication of your statement?
That's right, and they don't care about that. The outrage is necessary, but it doesn't go the other way, right? Let's take Hugh Jackman, right? Hugh Jackman's wife is way older than him, right?
Yep.
Now, to be fair, that's a beard. Yeah.
Well, probably,
but
yes.
probably, but no one seems to have a problem with that at all,
No.
right? But yet, if you have an older dude with a younger lady, which happens all the time, by the way, that's a problem. And why is that a problem? I still don't understand. And it comes back to that whole Me Too thing, right?
Uh-oh.
Well, no, because it got all twisted. It started out. Well, I know where it started out. It started out with that Woody Harrelson, not Woody Harrelson, Woody.
Harvey Weinstein that we're
No,
looking
no, no,
for.
no. Woody.
Woody Allen.
The Woody Allen, yeah, and his
Yeah.
fucking wife is the one that really kicked it off, but she's insane. But anyway, the
Well,
Weinstein
yeah.
thing. So you had an Italian actress that he was trying to fuck, basically, and she was like, no, and she ran away, and she went right to the police, as you should, right?
Yeah.
And that's what
Correct.
kicked it off. Okay, fine, yeah. If someone's trying to molest you or rape you, go to the cops, dude. Right?
Or just end them if you have the capability. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, right? So she did exactly what she was going to do, and any kind of conversation that goes that way, nearly all men and women are going to agree, right? Because
That's right.
that's not good. However, where did it go? And where did it go really quickly? With all these starlets coming out and saying, "Well, I wanted the job, and I had no choice but to have sex with him." No, you had a choice. You're a whore.
Yeah.
You're a whore. He's a lecher, and you're a whore. He made the offer he probably shouldn't have done,
Yeah.
and you accepted it. That's done. You're an adult. This is not, a Spader or whatever his name is, having sex with a 14-year-old kid. That's not that's not the situation, right? Spacey, sorry. You are an adult woman who made a decision. You profited off of prostituting yourself, which makes you a whore. What the hell is the argument? I don't understand it. He's in a position of power as if you're not. You're a woman. You have so much power.
Especially when it comes to sex.
Oh my
Especially when it
God,
comes to
dude.
sex.
Yeah.
I don't get it either. I mean, I don't know. I probably would call them whores, to be honest.
Well,
especially a lot
that's
of
what
these
they're doing.
Hollywood ladies.
They're prostituting themselves. And I'm not saying the dude's right. He's a lecher. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But look how twisted it got, dude. Look how twisted it got.
I
It
don't
started
think,
off
and personally,
legitimate.
in my opinion, I don't have any problem with it. If women use that to get, that's a tool in their kit. Good on you, honey.
That's
Good
part
job.
of their
You've made millions of
privilege.
dollars.
It's part of their privilege.
I have no. There's like people who get mad about talking about like getting married for money. I have no problem with that. That's perfectly reasonable to me. It's the same idea. Like you have to use the tools that were given to you. And if one of those tools is you happen to be sexy, use it. Use it. No problem. I don't see any reason. Now, when it goes into Harvey Weinstein territory, that's where it becomes an issue. But because there was,
I get it.
Yeah, he's an absolute scumbag. He belongs under the jail. But when it comes from their perspective, I just don't agree with them. If somebody propositioned you, you could say that proposition was wrong. And, yeah, okay, sure. But if you accepted it, then what are you complaining about?
If they actually believe what they're saying, then when they were propositioned, they would go to the media and say they were propositioned. If they actually cared.
Right.
They would make a point about it, because the only reason why Hollywood is lousy with this filthy nonsense that's going on all the time is because they engage and indulge it, right? And by the way, take a look at this picture from the film. Jeff and Neil have aged quite well, I have to say. You lucky bastards. She looks like she's about to eat brains. But damn, look at how good Jeff looks in the back there. Look at you, Jeff.
He's aging well. He's aging very well. He's a silver fox, that Jeff.
Both Jeff and Sam Neill are like fucking fine wines. I mean, like, isn't Sam Neill 70 something? Like 75?
Yes, he is, dude.
That's
crazy.
Isn't that fucking unfair?
He looks 50.
Yeah.
He looks the same as me. He looks my age.
That motherfucker
you'll look like that at 75.
He is 74 years old.
Yeah.
Wow. That is unfair to humanity to look that good at 74.
He looks great, dude. Yeah, Jeff is the one that surprises me, because he's always been goofy. But then again, I think it was Jurassic Park, or when it was a fly, he had that laying down scene with his shirt open. He was a sexy dude back in the day. Exotic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies liked him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's got the new Daddy Jeff thing going on, where they like to call him Daddy. It's kind of. Have you listened to the D&D podcast he's on?
No, but that would be awesome, dude.
So it is the most amazing thing. So I don't know if you knew this, but it's called Dark Dice, the Dark Dice Society. And so he's on a podcast. It's this like this cinematic thing. So it's less about the rolling and more about the role playing. But fucking Jeff Goldblum plays D&D on a podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
That's insane, Chet. That's
It
just
is insane, dude.
It is insane.
Especially
Yeah.
with his mad scientist brain. It must be
Yeah.
awesome, dude. But the thing is, look how happy we are to talk about Sam Neill and Jeff Goldblum, right? And
Yeah.
even the younger one, female on this, Howard, because I interviewed her. I did a translation of her interviews and stuff too. And once again, she was doing her job. She was promoting the movie, right? But
Yep.
look at her. I mean, she might have made a statement here or there. Shit, all of them probably have. But
Sure.
she's just, really trying to make a living in her daddy's business, right? And
Right.
and that's it. And I, in general, like her. I just need to see more of her, right? But I
Right.
mean, look how happy we are to laugh and enjoy these two old men being on the film together again. But this one, for fuck's sake, right? I mean,
Well,
she's made herself completely unlikable. Why are so many of these ladies and men, to be fair, but why are
Yeah.
so many of them making themselves so unlikable? It just seems anti-intuitive to your desires to work.
so I remember when a lot of the Me Too stuff was happening, right? And it had some really good effects, but then it also had some really negative effects because it blindsided. It was too broad, right? And I remember like one person who got in a lot of trouble for having some some comments that were not taken well by the female aspect of it. It was Angela Lansbury, where she made some comments that were like kind of like, yeah, like of course there's going to be creepy guys, but like there's also like creepy women who are out there like,
Oh
I
yeah.
yeah.
want a part and I'll do whatever I need to do to get that part. Like,
Yeah.
and so the question becomes then like, do we call that out? Like, who's, because that makes trouble for other women as well. Like, if someone is known for, participating in, like, they offer endeavors to get parts and stuff like that. Like, so, and then she got in trouble, like, oh, you're blaming women. It's like, well,
Sometimes you can blame women. Sometimes they're to
because
blame.
Yeah.
sometimes they're to blame. Yeah.
Sometimes a creep is just a creep, and
That's
Harvey
right.
Weinstein
Right.
is a great example of that. He's just a
Yeah.
creep, right? And there's no excuse, and he should absolutely go, like you said, to the bottom of the jail. But
Yeah.
sometimes
Well, he committed an
it
actual
takes
crime, though. Let's be clear.
well, totally,
Yes.
yeah. But sometimes it's a bit of it takes two to tango,
Oh
right?
yeah.
That's right.
And
That's right.
and so, but it's never really phrased that way. And I think part of the problem then is that it creates, it puts an over like victimization of women, and it does
Yes.
them a disservice. Like all they
I
are
agree.
victims, right?
That's right.
And
And
Takes
so-
away their agency.
It's right.
Takes
It
away
does
their
take away the
agency.
agency, and it's sexism, is what it is. Because
Yeah.
you want to call out the lechers in Hollywood, fine, go right ahead, but call out the whores too.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're both guilty. They're the ones who are allowing this thing to keep going and exist. And we've covered many stories on this, and we've been kind of cautious about it. But there's a lot deeper and uglier shit going on in Hollywood than what we're talking about here. There's some
yeah.
Totally.
really nasty stuff going on in Hollywood, and they're all involved. It doesn't matter, male or
all the
female.
shit Bryan Singer's done.
Oh my God, dude.
he's
Oh my
yeah,
God, dude.
yeah, like fucking chuck them all in jail, right?
Yeah. So, but even if we're just getting into your decision to make a profit off of your body or ask for someone to give their body for a profit given, either way you look at it. If you want to call it out, call it out. Go right ahead, dude. But this idea that only the men are guilty, fuck off. Fuck right
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I agree. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, is the old saying, Chester.
Well,
So it
Adrian,
actually, like,
hold on a second. Adrian, I'm using the word whore and lecher to gender specify. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
right. So it actually like segues into another conversation that's happening online, and this is the concept of what they call stealthing. Have you ever heard of that before?
Do I want to?
Well, it's basically it's guys who slip the condom off during sex. Right?
Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you
some
do
people
that?
are some people are idiots, right?
Yes, there's the answer
so-
right there.
Yeah. And so and there's a huge conversation online where women are saying, well, that's basically rape, and I don't disagree with them, right? Like if a guy is like,
Well, it's not
Gonna
rape,
do stuff.
but it's inappropriate.
well, It's totally
Not
inappropriate.
rape.
You're right. It
Yeah.
hits like this weird gray zone, right? You know, like what is it,
Yeah.
right? And it's definitely creepy and it's definitely got problems, right? But like what is often left out of that conversation are women who stealth, women who lie about being on
Oh yeah.
the pill,
Oh, that happens. That
or
happens
like
a lot. Yeah.
right. And so it's like this conversation of like there's women out there who purposely try to like lie to like young athletes. Like we're talking like collegiate level athletes who want to get pregnant from them because they consider it an easy ride because they're like, oh, he's going to go pro. I'm going to have his baby. I'm going to get alimony or something like
Yeah,
that, right?
we've seen that happen.
So
Yeah.
it's public. Like there's women who brag about it on TikTok, like
Yeah,
talking about how idiotic like college athletes are, and stuff. They'll believe you if you say you're on the pill and blah 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 blah, right? So the question I think the modern generation is trying to struggle with is like if you're going to qualify stealthing, the removing of condoms, during sex as rape-ish, we'll say, right? What does the other side count as? Because
same.
if you
If
say
that's the terminology, that's the terminology.
right, because like if there's a guy saying like, oh yeah, I'm just out there trying to get women pregnant, like that sounds fucking creepy, right? You're like that, like what are you doing? Like what do you mean? You're like lying to women trying to like get them pregnant, right? That, and a lot of people would categorize that as rape, but we don't do that on the flip side. If women are like saying, yeah, I lie to college athletes to try and get pregnant so I have an alimony baby or something like that, right?
Yeah, no,
So
they're disgusting both ways. And why would you want to get women pregnant? And I get women wanting to do it. I understand that quite clearly because she, for whatever reason, not even just monetarily, she might be dating someone and she really wants to marry this person. They're being hesitant and they want to force their hand. I get that. Women do that all the time. But man, why the hell would you want to get a woman pregnant? Unless you both decide that, hey, let's do this. Why? Explain to me this why.
I don't know because I don't, but I do know that I've seen, and this is a different angle on it. I've seen that some racial groups do it as a form of like fetishized power to another racial group, black and white, both directions. Yeah, I don't understand it personally. I think
Man,
it's weird,
what
but you
happened
can
to
look. You can see these conversations online where they call them things like their conquest, right? By
oh Jesus,
impregnating them,
dude. What
things like
happened to
this.
the good old fashioned ass whooping? Hmm?
Well, now it's illegal, Chester. You can't even defend yourself, or you're a bad guy.
Dude, I
That's
would
what happened to
thump
it.
some fucker if they did that to someone I knew. I would thump the hell out of them.
Well, they would deserve it, and they
Yeah.
deserve much worse, especially if it was, completely unwanted. But yeah, no, there's a serious, like Ben said, there's a cultural conversation about it. I don't like using the word rape for it, like
Well, it's
Chester
not the
doesn't.
right
I
terminology.
think,
It's not the right word.
well,
Yeah.
one and two, I think rape has a connotation that is important and doesn't need to be muddied. We need to leave it exactly
Rape
what
is
it
very
is.
very 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 basic definition. You're forced
Yes,
someone by
that's
threats
right.
of
Forced or
violence.
coerced
Forced,
sexual,
well, no, not
sexual.
even
Yeah.
coerced. Forced someone into sex. It's forced. Coercion is not. That's called stupidity. Yeah, we have a word
Well,
for
the
that
reason
too.
why you want to add coercion is because typically a woman can't force a man, but they can coerce a man. They can do other things like blackmail or whatever to get a man to have sex with them, or just emotional abuse.
All right, fine.
And
Okay, fine.
yeah, that's
Fine.
that's the only reason I add that caveat. But yes, I agree with you. Still, I think regardless of that, though, that we do need to. One, I think a lot of older men need to tell younger men to stop that shit and maybe even beat their ass. Honestly,
It
because
sounds
it's
like it.
not cool. It's not cool. What are you doing? That's disgusting behavior.
And
Stop it.
but are they okay? Okay, so I guess from the analogy you're giving me, a black dude getting white girls pregnant because
Yep.
take that white bitch cracker.
Yep.
Okay,
That happens.
all right, fine. But the paternity falls upon him because here's the thing: the court systems in the West are very anti-male. Very anti-male. They're very pro-female. So why would okay, you get that cracker. I get it. But now you're in for paternity. So what? She got you? I mean, what? What?
Again, it's not my logic. I don't understand it, but I've
he
seen
did
it
say it
out
made
there.
sense, Chet. He didn't say it made sense.
I'm sorry. Well, how dare I look
Stop
at the
looking
world
for.
from a logical lens? What am I doing?
What are you trying to do?
That's always been your problem, Chet.
That's
That's
true.
always been your
It is
problem.
true. It is true, dude. But anyway, this movie looks fun though, and it looks like they had a lot of fun because like I said, I've translated all the interviews, just finished actually, and as well as the script. It looks like a fun movie. And to be honest, the new Jurassic World run has been kind of meh. This one looks like it's a little bit more fun, hopefully, and it sounds like these dudes are having a good old time. Everybody except her,
Yeah.
because
Good, because
Howard's
I
interview was
hated the
great.
last film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
the
they're not
last
good.
film was yeah.
They're not as good. This one sounds a little more fun, but we'll have to see it in action, of course. All I have is the script to go by, right? But
And Jurassic World and just I can't remember what studio it is. They need to thank their lucky stars that Chris Pratt became a star because otherwise this series of movies would not have been successful. He
yeah.
carries both of the movies hard, and they're still not great. But
Well,
I mean, he can only do so much.
now, I haven't seen the interview itself. I just have the script, right?
Mhm.
But it sounded to me by looking at the script and going through that she and Sam and Dern were sitting together and being interviewed together. Is what it sounded like. Matter of fact, they all
Mm.
might have been in a row for all I know. But those two certainly seem to be sitting together in the interview. And the whole time he's trying to promote the movie and talk about how special the relationship between them is and how great they're back. It's very nice stuff. He's saying lots of nice stuff. And every time he tries to say something nice, she says something shitty. Every damn time. And it's like, why did you not put a clause in her contract to shut her mouth? Why
Yeah,
didn't you? Because she should have been, oh, yeah, it's so great to be back with him and all that. It should have been all that kind of stuff because that's what he was doing, right?
yeah.
And I kind of want to find the interview and look at it. I don't know if it's out yet, but because I almost feel by reading it that there were several moments that Sam just was doing a head slap or rolling his eyes because he was constantly trying to feed her, right? To talk good things about how great it is we're back and the connection. He's really trying hard, and she's just spewing it out, dude. Oh God, my God, dude, this woman.
It almost reminds me of how awkward the group interviews were for the Avengers, like I think it was Infinity Wars or Endgame,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
whenever Brie Larson was on the panel, she just didn't get it. Right? She didn't
yeah.
get it. She didn't get what they were doing, and that's not a female thing. She just didn't get it. Right? Like Scarlett Johansson having fun. The what's her name? The one Zoe Saldana, the person she plays Gamora. She gets it. She's having fun.
Yeah.
But anytime Brie fucking Larson was on a panel, like the awkward level, like I remember there's this interview they were doing, and she was on the panels with like Chris Hemsworth and I think who's the guy who plays War Machine? Don Cheadle.
Oh, yeah,
And
Cheeto.
so
Yeah.
Yes.
they
Cheeto
asked him
can't
like,
stand her, dude.
oh
No.
no, he can't. No, and I think it was because of this interview. So they asked him like, oh, who's your favorite Avenger that's not your character, right? And Chris Hemsworth, who's just charming. He's just trying to be a sweet guy and have fun and promote the movie. And
Yeah.
so he was like, oh, well, Captain Marvel's my favorite because Brie, you're my best friend. And Brie gave him like some fucking like ugly side eye, like, dude. And she said, like, in this interview, she's like, dude, I don't know you. Like, what are you talking about? You're not my best friend. And it's like, shut the fuck up.
Yes.
He's making a charming interview.
Yes.
It's not about
Yes.
the reality of whether guys you are friends.
Yes.
He's just trying to be charming for the interview and
Yes.
promote the movie, and you're being fucking dumb.
Yep.
Right?
It's
You're
true.
just
And
being fucking dumb and
Yep.
making it fucking awkward forever. Because again, this isn't a woman thing. This is just her being dumb.
No.
Everyone else, Karen Gillian got it. Zoe Saldana got it. Everyone else got it except for Brie fucking Larson because she's just fucking dumb.
Yeah.
She's a
And
narcissist.
she is horrible. And the thing was with Zoe, by the way, that she's horribly self-absorbed human being. I mean, it's all about being the artiste. But even in those interviews, she got it though. She was
Yeah.
because she had a smile on her face. Because you know what? I think she had fun.
Well,
Eh,
also, people like to look at smiles. We don't want to look at dour faces all the time. It's nice to see people smile.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with sexism or whatever. It's just it's
Oh.
nicer to watch when people look happy than when they look sad.
You know
Very simple.
You know the most unbearable script I had to go through was
Uh-oh.
Antebellum.
Ooh.
Dude. The idea of Antebellum is not necessarily a bad one. We've seen it done before. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but yeah, don't watch that movie, dude. It's bad. But my God, that script was so self-absorbed, so race baity. Oh my God, I had to get through that. And the problem is, I try not to interject my opinions or culture into helping this guy because I'm helping him. But he doesn't
Right.
understand American culture. He doesn't understand it at all. That's why he comes to me, right? So he doesn't understand the intolerable nature of things, like the
Right.
Laura Dern interview I did recently here with him. But I put this up particularly because I do have a connection to it. I don't talk about it much. I might have mentioned once or twice before, but it is something I do, and I do love it. I think it's a lot of fun. But every now and then you get this absolute just dumbass person who does it. And it's not just women. Ben's point is well taken. There are men who do this too,
Ezra Miller,
right? Ezra Miller
for
is
an example.
freaking intolerable, right? I
And
actually
there's another counter. Gal Gadot, when she was stuck with him, was clearly annoyed at being
Oh
stuck with
no,
him.
I had to do I did all the interviews and everything for Justice League, right?
Yeah.
Because he translated Justice League, and of course he gets all they give him the script and all the interview scripts. So
Right.
one translator gets it all, gets one movie, right? That's monumental. You would think there'd be a team on it, but he's really good at it, and he'll go and do all the work, and then he'll bring to me questions he has, and I don't really get what's saying here or there, and we'll go through the troublesome areas of the script or the interview, and that's how we do it. So, and he's quite quick actually. For instance, I think for it took him what? Well, a little less than 3 months to do the entire script and interviews and the whole kit and caboodle. And the script was done much quicker than that, by the way. So I guess that's what you're looking at here in Japan, and it makes sense now. You're seeing a good 3 month turnaround, and seeing his movies are in the, greenlit and in the can a good year ahead of time. That's why it just gives me a little bit of insight into how the system works, how Hollywood works, right? Because it takes a good 3 months for a translator to get that all done and worked out, you know. Unless
Right.
if you have less interviews, it's less because they seem to go through the script pretty quick. But just to give you an idea how long that takes. But anyway, I'm going to move on from this. But I cannot emphasize enough how absolutely filthy this woman is, because
Yep.
every single other person, doesn't matter their gender, every other person in those interviews it sounded like they were having a great time, fun, promoting the movie, and seeing as I have read the script, I think it might be a little better. Of course, I can't see the application of it, but it might be a little bit more loose and more wild, I would say. But I'm going to move on from it. But God damn it, woman. Anyway, refreshing.
I'm going to let you read this one, Chester, because I'm not going to try them Japanese words.
Well, maybe we'll let Ben do it.
Oh boy. New Urusei Yatsura anime confirms release window with first trailer and key visual.
There
Okay.
we go.
Okay. Urase is a old character that's been around for a very long time in Japan, and it's a very popular character. Now, in this article, they refer to this as an ecchi character, which would mean be a sex character. Um, I don't know that I would use that word. I don't know that I agree. It is certainly a sexualized character. It's a sexy character, but it's not an actual sex on screen character at all. It's just a sexy girl, I think she's a demon or something. Or oh, she's an oni. She's an oni. So
Right.
I don't know that it would qualify as ecchi. Is here in Japan, Ben? Do they actually have a category called ecchi? Ecchi just means sex, by the
Um,
way, guys.
yeah, I mean, I think there's like or it's a category or at least like a tag for certain anime or
Yeah, but is that a
it,
Westernism or is that actually something the Japanese use? Like
well, I think
chibi,
it's something the
Japanese don't
Japanese
use
use.
chibi; they use mini, right?
No, I think Japanese use it. I
Not
know it's been
really.
adapted. Um, I don't know.
The only time I've heard
I mean,
Japanese use chibi is when they're talking about their gotcha gotcha.
no, I'm talking about ecchi. I'm not talking.
Yeah.
You're right about the chibi, right? I'll agree with that. I think I think it's maybe been glammed onto by Western culture a little bit
Maybe.
more than its use in Japanese culture, but
Yeah.
I think it's definitely used, right? It's sort of like otaku. Like otaku's definitely used in Japanese culture, but it has like a different connotation in the way it's
Yeah.
been glammed onto by
That's
Western
true.
culture,
That is
right?
true. It's usually negative.
Right.
Most of the time.
Where we've adopted it as sort of like to just mean nerd, which isn't a negative thing within Western culture.
Right, that's true. But anyway, so I didn't really agree with that point, but with this article, but whatever. This is a very popular character in Japan. It's well known, everybody knows it, and I don't know that everyone's seen it, but they know this character. And they got this they got this thing coming back for her, and they got a trailer. I thought we watch it. You want to watch it? I want to watch it.
Oh, let's.
Let's watch it. So I'm pretty sure she's an Oni. Me?
Yeah. I was about to say it.
面倒ですが何か柔軟の層が出ておるクワバラクワバラ誰があるぞダーリン見つけた
Okay. See, I've never watched it before. All right, it is a little bit naughty. a little.
Right, but it's one of those
bit.
ones where the sex is the sex is heavily implied,
Heavily
or
implied.
like, but it's never going to be like actually like like on screen or anything like that.
No.
That's always been.
It's not pornography, no. But
Yeah.
it's very suggestive. Okay, I love the old chef dude there. It's like, oh, not again. Okay. I get it now. All right. So yeah, all right. It is very sexual, but it's not pornographic. But nevertheless, this character's been around a long time. It's quite popular, so they got a new thing coming. Cool. Awesome. I just thought it was interesting because Western people, I don't know how well they know this character, but here in Japan, it is one of those characters you see, which is weird. Japan's weird. Like you'll watch. I know you saw this when you were over here, Ben. You remember that New Year's show where they would have it was a talent show, but they had to use their body, right? In all the stuff, and then you have a bunch of judges, and if they get a top vote, they could possibly be winner of their category. It's a really interesting show, actually, and it's very mainstream Japanese TV. But the girls who come up and put the medals on your neck if you get the 20 points, the full vote, they're all wearing Playboy bunny suits. Yeah, this is a TV show. It's mainstream TV. It's a family thing. It's been going on for decades in Japan. It's very traditional, normal Japan, and they got Playboy bunnies running around the stage. So I know you might think this is odd that Lum is something that is iconic, but it is. You go around America and you see Mickey Mouse here, or you see Heathcliff, or maybe Garfield here, or what have you. This character is the same here. You see it everywhere. So I just thought it was interesting. You remember that show?
Oh yeah. It's one of those things where like it kind of shows you that Japan has a very different relationship with like sexuality than what we have in like Western culture,
Yeah. Well,
right?
they don't pervert it like we do. I know a lot of people like, oh, Japanese are perverted.
What? What?
There is a slice of society here that is that way, but they don't
Right.
pervert things like we do. You disagree?
I'm gonna slightly disagree. I get the implication of what you're saying, and you're not necessarily wrong, but they do in other fashions different than what we do, right?
Yeah, it is different. It is different. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Japan's just different. But I just thought it'd be cool to put up because this character I said is quite iconic. And yeah, it's definitely sexualized. But that was funny. I gotta watch that. I gotta watch the trailer again. I know you guys don't give a shit. I'm gonna watch it again because it was funny. No, seriously, it's funny. Here, repeat.
皆さんこれが諸星あたるくんの写真です
俺
よろしくラーリン。
こんな
Hi, I'm back.
うちここでくださっちゃ口よしや。
面倒ですが何か
おでし柔軟の層が出ておる。
クワバラク
She's serious. Kurabata, kurabata.
ラーリン見つけた。ラーリン
Oh shit, dude. It's so Japanese. My God, it's so Japanese. And the thing is, I know anime has become quite popular manga too in the West, but Ben, you could probably answer this better than Thundera could. Do they get it though?
Not always.
Yeah, I just
Not
think there's a
always.
huge cultural barrier. I think a lot of the humor and stuff, I don't see how a Westerner could get it.
No, and it really kind of depends on who's doing the translations, right? Some of them do get a bit more Americanized, or Westernized for some of the humor and stuff as part of the translations go. But I think there's a lot of cultural stuff that gets missed in the translation. And it really kind of depends who the reader is, right? And how much they're going to get. So, but do they understand it 100%? No, no, they don't. But it's not always needed, right? So from this perspective of this show, right? It's a pretty common theme in a lot of Japanese anime, and a lot of it is to put this dude into awkward situations in which it is very hard for him to explain to people.
Yes,
Right.
that's
And-
the
and-
joke. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason it's hard to explain, not just who she is or that she's a demon, but like who she is to him. Right. It's almost like I think the weirdest like equivalent to it would be, Chet, is like Three's Company. Right.
Yeah. No, yeah. That's a good analogy actually. Yeah, it is.
Right, because like nowadays you would have a hard time explaining like, yeah, it's just three people living in an apartment. Like, but
Well,
at that time it was hard to explain because it seemed like polyamorous or something like that, right? But it was really hard to explain at that time, and that Three's Company was just built around awkward situations to explain.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of these series are in Japanese culture. Is like there's going to be things that kind of grate up against Japanese culture that are quote unquote hard to explain, and it becomes sort of this like trope through awkwardness of Japanese culture.
right. Well, yeah,
You have to realize there's different fandoms within the anime community and manga community in America now too.
I imagine, yeah.
There's the old fans and then there's the new fans, the ones that came to it after Naruto and all that. But the old school fans, I guarantee most of them know what this is because I know what this is.
Oh, yeah, no, it is old. And it's cool they got a new thing because, like I said, it was quite popular. But you asked for translation.
I'm actually excited to see
Yeah.
a
Basically, it starts.
translation of it.
Yeah, no, I will. It starts out here in the beginning where the news report is the police are looking. Of course, they blurred his eyes out. The police are looking for this sexual pervert, right? They're looking for him, and he's like, "What? What?
Who,
Me?"
me?
And then
Me?
all of a sudden,
Yeah.
she's like, "Nice to meet you." Right? It's perfect.
That's what the
timing.
yoroshiku is part.
Yoroshiku.
Yeah.
It's like a first time
Yoroshiku.
meeting someone. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
But nice to be meeting you, I guess. So it's funny because he's like, "What, me?" And then she's like, "Ooh, that's interesting," because she is a bit of a sex demon, I guess. But it goes through here, and this is just all stuff. They're introducing different characters and stuff. And there's just little sexual references. This one I think is the Three's Company one because she says that something to the effect of why doesn't he notice me or why isn't he looking at me? So I'm assuming that this girl likes him too, right?
Right.
Yes.
But he's only got guys for the sexy sex demon because she's a sexy sex demon. And then coming through this guy
He's trying to avoid her.
this guy maybe is a hunter of some kind. He's
The one in the white.
yeah.
Yeah.
He hunts
He's a-
demons or
he's a
something like that is what he's saying. And all the kanji
yeah.
here. Yeah, I think he's a demon hunter of some kind. This
He's a
one,
rich guy. He's a rich guy. He's a rich guy.
rich guy. I see.
He's like a prince. He's like a prince or something. I can't remember exactly, but I own like several volumes of this manga,
Oh,
so I
okay.
know
Well, then you
quite a
know.
bit.
Yeah. But that's all. It's just going on about these people and their involvement with this demon. And then the old dude is just like he basically just sighs heavily. And then of course they introduce his character, and then they got a little bit of outtaking here, and it's just kind of wrapping up like, yeah, it's back, and come check it out, and yada yada yada. That's all. So, but because
Here's
I've
the
never
thing.
watched it, so
Okay, so here's the thing, because I don't know if this is a change in American or if or if you just are not really aware of the whole show.
I'm
Because
not. Yeah,
in America, she's an alien from space. Like she comes, like she's an alien of some sort, and I know she looks like a Oni, but I think that was just the design choice that Rumika made at the
yeah.
time. Uh, so I'm not sure she's a demon at all.
I have
I'm
no
pretty
do. I
sure
have no
she's
clue.
just.
Yeah.
But she's totally chasing after the guy that is probably the pervert that they're talking about because he is a pervert. But he has like no, like he's trying to get away from him all the time, and he's like, eventually they do end up in a relationship, but he's such a flirt that she gets really jealous really quickly if he talks to any other girl,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
typically he
It's
stops him with a
typical.
light.
It sounds like Cutie Honey, which is the same thing. She's
Yeah,
always trying to get laid, and all the men are running
it's
away from her, right? Yeah.
so the guy that's in white, he's like a prince or some rich guy, and he thinks that Lum should be with him because this other guy is a lech and he's low quality and she deserves better than that or something. So there's
Well,
like it's like a love triangle kind of thing, but it's
oh, so
not.
we have both
She
sides of it, male and
has
female
no
side.
interest.
That's interesting. Because he
Yeah,
said he was hunting something, though.
yeah, he's probably hunting her at the beginning. I
I
think
see.
if I remember.
But anyway,
There was a movie from like the '90s, I think, called Beautiful Dreamer, and if you've never seen it, it's one of the most beautiful animated movies, but it is completely insane, like the
yeah.
stuff that's going on because it's all taking place in a dream,
Is it
but you
worse than
don't know it.
Paprika?
No, it's not like that because Yasura Yatsura. It's just a movie based around those characters,
No, okay.
and they're like stuck in a dream state or something, if I remember correctly. It's been years since I've seen it, but it aired on Sci-Fi Channel back in the '90s.
Well, the Japanese are very innovative with their storytelling, that's for sure. They're not bound by anything. They will go and try all kind of weird shit. So,
Boy, is that the truth. I
yeah.
was watching a video on Yu-Gi-Oh, and I didn't know anything about this because I never really got into it because I was kind of past that stage. And the way that show, like, I mean, he literally murders people at the beginning of the story
Sure.
before it became a card battle thing. It was totally different.
Well, some
Weird.
people need murdering.
Weird.
I mean, that's just a reality.
I mean,
But I really
murders people
think.
that
Oh, sorry, Adrian. What?
he murders people that deserve it, from what I can
Sure.
tell. But
Yeah, that's fine. But I think the Western storytellers could take a lot of hints from the Japanese in this regard.
oh yeah,
Because in the
oh yeah,
West we have a very tight set of trope stories you can tell, and we don't seem to want to go outside of them. Like I was joking about the upcoming Cronenberg movie, and of course I'll watch it. But that's going to be weird as shit. It's going to be really
oh yeah.
outside because he's one of the few dudes that actually does stuff outside the normal box.
Right.
JJ, fucking JJ.
Lens
Right.
flares. Nothing but lens flares.
So, well, that's like the movie. I know we've brought this movie up way too many times by this point, but The Northman is the same way. It thinks Yep. it takes like a typical historical like drama storyline and just goes way outside the box with it.
Yeah, I watched it.
What'd you think? Yeah.
I think it's a good, solid flick. I think I prefer the Lighthouse is pretty good. I like Eggers in general. He is an artistic filmmaker, not
Yeah.
quite the insanity of Cronenberg, but more, certainly leaning in that direction. I thought it was a pretty good movie. In general, I don't know why the every movie has to make Viking, North, Scandinavians, these bloodthirsty, murderous people who kill without concern. That's just not true. But whatever, it's
Yeah.
entertainment, I guess. I thought it was fine. I thought everyone did a pretty good job. What's the Nicole Kidman? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh god.
she seemed a bit out of place.
Yeah. Yeah.
She looked like she was
Literally.
about to be taken up to the mothership any minute now.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
no, it was the acting that
Acting.
mainly, yeah.
The acting.
But it was okay. She was okay, but everyone else did pretty good. You got that alien-looking girl. What's her name? Something Joy.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Anna Taylor-Joy, I think is her
Yeah.
name.
She's a weird-looking creature, but she did a pretty good job, I thought, in the role. One thing I will say about her that I do appreciate, she has a womanly body. That's nice to see because we don't get that. We get these shrunk, no neck, little midget things these days. So that was nice. But
Yeah.
I guess the only complaint I have is that in no way, shape, or form was that the Emleth story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that. That
Yeah.
Uh,
was after you told us the whole story
I did.
before we went and saw that movie.
I did.
I think I even looked at Thundaro and I'm like, yeah, Chester's gonna be upset that this is nothing like the story that he told
No, it's
us.
nothing at all close. But I mean, that it's to the point that I don't really why you called it the Northman. You didn't have to call him Amleth. You didn't have to do that. But it
Yeah.
does, from a
Yeah.
historical point of view, it's a bit irksome. But it was fine. It was entertaining. I did love the fight scene, the imaginary fight scene with the antediluvian giant, though. That was pretty cool. The Jotun.
That
That
was
was neat.
awesome.
Yeah, that was neat.
The thing I really liked about it, and I think Eggers does this in his other movies too, is you don't really know what's real and what isn't, right? Because that scene you're talking
Right.
about, they imply, or I guess you could say, just basically says without saying it, that didn't actually happen.
Right, no.
Like,
Well, and that's filmmaking. Show don't tell, dude. And that's a perfect example. Yeah. But I thought it was pretty well done all around. I was a little, I would have I would have stuck a little closer to the Amleth. You don't have to do the idiot thing with him. I get why he didn't want to do that because it's boring. But
yeah,
in the end of the Amleth story, by that time he actually has two wives, and they're fanatically loyal to
Right.
him as he is to them, right? And they end up going after he kills the his uncle. They go after to get to another person who's been harrying another king, and they all three get wiped out, right? All three of them die, and it's a tragedy. But what it's showing is that the loyalty and devotion of these three people to each other, right? That's the
right,
moral of the story. And
Right.
by
Yeah.
not telling the Amleth story, you've lost your moral.
right.
Right.
Is the negative, I would say. But other than that, I thought it was fun. Yeah.
Did
Am
you
I
like the
being
fight scene at the end with the big naked men fighting by a volcano?
Well, yeah, but that's also kind of because there's another, I don't know if it's a problem, but a misunderstanding people have about Scandinavian religion.
Yeah.
A lot of people assume that it's very similar to the Greek or the Roman or the Egyptian or the Indian. But
No.
what you're not understanding is the Scandinavian and Celtic religions, they're kind of a holdover from the ancient Aryan ways, right? For
Hmm.
somehow they
Right.
just survived through the years. Where the Egyptian stuff is a much more modernized version of those stories. The gods actually have bodies. They're people,
Right.
right?
Right.
And most of us apply that logic to the Scandinavian gods, Odin, Thor. They're not people. They're not, and that they do apply
Right.
stories, moral stories to talk about, but what they represent is emotion. To be
Yes.
honest with you, what we have today, even though you only see it in the East, and people don't understand the comparison, Buddhism did not start in Asia. It actually it came out of Zoroastrianism. I've talked about this before. And it's
Yeah.
coming out of the Aryan people. That's their original religion. And if you go look at
Yeah,
actual Scandinavian religion, it is Buddhism. It's what it is, right?
right.
Mhm.
Yeah. So all those gods and stuff, they're representing the emotional state of being human, is what they're doing.
Right.
And therefore, the naked
Right.
men in the fiery mist amongst the fire, boy, you can't make a more emotional statement than that, can you?
No, it's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Really good.
really.
Yeah, I just think it's a great what's the word I'm looking for? Like snapshot. Because a lot of the stuff that other movies in this same idea do, this movie doesn't do. So you don't get the big grandiose halls, and you don't get these big sprawling estates or these big battles. No, it's much smaller in scope and scale, which is much more realistic. And
Yeah,
I
they make it more
appreciated that.
human, but there's a
Yeah.
lot more human to it.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
And then
no.
it does the weird thing where it does this weird thing where there is apparently magic, but then you're not sure if it's real because it
Right.
purposefully makes you think that it's all in his head. And I love that. It's so well done because it's never said at any point that it's in his head. That's never stated. But when you watch it, yeah, that could have all just been in his head, all the weird magic stuff.
And
Yeah.
the mushrooms and all those kind of things. Although the
Yeah.
sword was clearly
Yeah.
magical. He pointed that out, that was magical.
Yes.
He did point that out.
Yes.
For sure. But the another little, I don't know if it's complaint. These aren't complaints because I thought the movie was fine. They're just interesting quirks. He called the movie The Northman, but
Yeah.
all the words that they were using and the names they were using were Finnish,
Yes.
and that's a
I
bit
thought that
odd.
was weird.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, that is odd.
Yeah, because a Northman would be a Swabian, right?
Right.
Is what a Northman would be. And if the Finns were never, they certainly would be lumped in with the Scandinavians, but they have their own kind of thing because the Sami people, their influence on because how do I do this super quick? There was a time way back, way back, that the Aryan peoples were in North America and Northwest Europe. There was a time. And then we had a big old cataclysm, and they ended up kind of correlating around the Black Sea, and there was problems. Probably, the ice age that came on after the Younger Dryas, and it pushed them east. And they kind of got all balled up around Mongolia, and then when things started thawing out, they started moving back, right? And when they came back, they started interacting with people. Now, a lot of those people, some of them had fallen into complete barbarianism and savage states. Some of them were not as much, were just kind of hunter gatherers back to their roots, etc., etc. But when these Aryans eventually started moving back into Europe again, of course, the Swabians or the Germans were the most successful of the groups, although the Celts did pretty good as well over on the western side. But when the Swabians started moving into the Scandinavian areas, of course, a chunk of them ended up in what we call Finland area today, Finland, Estonia, that Russia, that kind of area. And there was a group that had survived in that area since before the problems, right? They're antediluvian people, and then we call them the Sami, right? And they're both white people, but they're culturally very different, right? These Aryans were very different these Seka people. But particularly when they intermixed with the Sami, they gained a lot of culture and old ancient culture and it changed them. So the Finnish people are quite distinct from the rest of the Scandinavians, if you understand what I mean. And that's why it was a bit bizarre to me because you called your movie The Northman. So why weren't you using the Swedish or the Danish or the Norwegian dialects. Why did you choose a Sami-influenced dialect of the Finnish? It just seems odd because it's clear that Mr. Eggers did a shitload of research.
Oh yeah,
So why did
absolutely.
he make that choice? Was there some Ben, help me.
I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet.
You need to see it. You'll like it. I think it's good.
Well, there's the
I
answer I
want to see
needed.
it. It's finding time to get to the theaters is becoming problematic for me. So too much is going on right now.
Yeah,
But,
fair enough.
Trust me, I want to see it. Prioritizing it has been a pain. So
I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, if Chester didn't hate it, then it's probably okay.
I didn't hate it. No. But unfortunately, it's difficult because I know the history of that story so well. And because how many
Right.
people here can see the nuanced differences between dialects is, it's kind of my thing. So anytime you have where you're knowledgeable about something and it's not what it should be to your brain, it creates dysfunction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Friction points.
It does.
Creates a friction point.
But I think go watch it. It was fun. And like I said, that girl, that Joy girl, she's so weird, creepy looking, but she's a solid little actress, man. Everything I see her in, she does a good job, dude. I haven't seen her drop the ball.
Yeah, she played her role very well.
She did.
And here's what's shocking to me: Chester hasn't once mentioned the lead, Alexander Skarsgård, in his ridiculous performance, because it genuinely is. He is so good. It's one of those performances where he doesn't feel like a person, like a modern person. He obviously is, but he just does such a good job of becoming this alternate person. And the fact that he's always hunched when he walks was clearly intentional to make him, more bestial or whatever. I don't know. I really loved his performance. I thought he did a fantastic job. With very little, he doesn't say a lot, but just expression, and he has a lot of facials to the camera, and I don't know. I really liked Alexander Skarsgård's performance. If you did a serious movie not based in Marvel about Norse mythology, he would make a spectacular Thor.
Oh my god, he would.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Like we dance around Norse mythology a lot, but yet they won't lean into the Eddas and just do one. Just pick one.
I would rather him be Balder.
He'd be a good Balder. Yeah, absolutely. But regardless, I think Skarsgård's performance for me, was the best part overall of the main cast. Obviously, Willem Dafoe is in it as well. He's not really a main character.
He eats shit, dude. That guy literally eats the freaking universe, man. What is up with William Dafoe, dude?
He's amazing, bro. He's amazing.
It doesn't matter if it's a serious Eggers movie like we're talking about, or it's freaking Spider-Man.
Yeah, he just owns. He's got it. He's got the it factor times a million.
Yeah, no, he gives the best performance in the film. Without question. But it's just very short, unfortunately. But then again, we even get to see dead William Dafoe. And he's awesome too! Skarsgård was fine. It was fine. Yeah, I thought it was fine. I think he should have been given a little bit more meat to chew on, to be honest with you. I think Eggers wanted him, because the kind of running theme, spoilers, Ben, is that are you an animal or a man? Right? What are you?
Right.
And by the end, do they answer that question?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I like the movie. It leaves you with questions.
That movie is very, all of it's pretty ambiguous because it doesn't really answer the questions. It lets you think about the questions. I mean, me and Sandaro were thinking about this movie, well, even up to now, probably.
Yeah.
I
like I said, I really like the fact that he does introduce some fantastical stuff, but then he gives you the out that it could have just been there's potential rational explanations for all of it, and I like that. I appreciate that. I think not enough filmmakers have the courage to leave you with questions like that, good questions, not like plot holes. but good questions.
Yeah.
Why do you?
Well, it's hard to do.
It is,
That-
but let
that's
me
just-
ask you guys a question. I got to go grab a pack of cigarettes, but I'll let you answer it. But why do you think then that as ambiguous as he made everything, and I completely get why he did it. I understand 100%. But
Yeah.
but why, seeing as he did that, did he leave the part with the sword so unambiguous? Because it's clearly magical, and he took time to show you it was. Because yeah, you're
Yes.
right. It could be in his head. It won't draw during the daylight. Because maybe it's in his head, but a third person picked it up and couldn't open it during the day either.
Right.
So
right.
he
That was,
intentionally made it unambiguous. Everything else is ambiguous, but that sword isn't. Why?
I don't know. That's a very
That's a
good
good
question. It would be something you'd literally have to ask him, and I bet you he's the type of guy who wouldn't answer.
Yeah.
Just to screw with you.
A dick?
Yes.
All right, I'll be back in a second.
No, it really is, Ben. Whenever you get the chance, check it out if it's still in theaters. I'm sure it is. And I really approve of it. I really approve of Egger's whole style. I don't know if you've ever seen The Lighthouse, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I really like this guy. I hope we get more like him. Hollywood has been needing somebody who has I don't want to say revolutionary, but that vein of style of filmmaking for a long time. We've been very sterile. So hopefully we get more people who will push the envelope and do things that are ambiguous and extreme in a way. Adrian and I went and saw it together with our wives. They both loved it too. It's just, it's a movie for adult minds, right? And it's not afraid or ashamed of that fact at all. And I appreciate that.
So Chet was saying that the movie's trying to answer the question, are you a man or are you an animal?
Yes.
So
Definitely, yeah.
So I mean, that sounds like it's a lot like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where they're asking the question, are you a mother or are you a monster? And she was revealed to, in fact, not be a mother at all and to only be a monster. So yeah, I see what you're saying. It sounds great.
Yes. She is definitely a monster. That's for sure.
They did answer that was the answer to the question at the end of that film.
Are we talking about Nicole
She
Kidman?
wasn't. No, I'm trying to trigger Thundera right now.
He's trying, but it's not going to work.
What movie are we talking about?
Speaking of multiverse movies, I have heard that the Michelle Yeoh movie is really good.
Oh my god, let's talk about that. So let's talk about the true multiverse of madness. And it's so fucking ironic that those two movies came out at the same time, because the Michelle Yeoh movie, that is the multiverse of fucking madness. That is a crazy trip of a movie.
What's the name of it?
Anything and everything and anything all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is a true artistic sci-fi movie, and it's really interesting. And
was she gumming her rice?
Is she gumming her rice?
The things that trigger him, I love it.
Oh my goodness. I actually heard that she puts on one of the best performances she's put on in years.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I've heard too from multiple people. Yeah.
It's a great it's a fun movie.
What's it called again?
Movie.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
And it's about the multiverse. It's about, this concept of endless possibilities and stuff.
Multiverse,
right?
or parallel worlds?
I don't think it makes the distinction, but multiverse is probably more accurate.
Yeah,
multiverses.
Okay.
Yeah, other universes connecting is what they say in the little blurb. So
because she's connecting with other versions of herself throughout the whole film.
So it's Li Ling Chang's The One.
Yes, but a much better version of it.
A much better version. Much better version.
She can kick a little ass, but she ain't no Jet Li, dude.
Well, no, of course not.
But that's not the point. It's not meant to be.
But that's like Jet Li's worst film.
It's got action in it, but it's a lot more philosophical, right? It's
Yeah,
about
no, I thought so. I was being sorry. I was being an ass.
Well, it's also an older cast, right? An older lead. Something that I've complained about many times is all these movies. Like a movie like this would typically have a younger star, right? It wouldn't be about a middle-aged person or whatever. And the fact that it is shows how much depth of a story you can tell when you don't focus on somebody in their early 20s or younger all the time in Hollywood like they tend to do. And I think that that's one of the reasons why a lot of people appreciate it as well, because while it's not like a mature story necessarily, it at least has maturity. And it allows the character to have mature adult problems that don't get brushed aside as if they don't matter.
Well,
and that's good. That's what we need more of in Hollywood.
Maybe I can force myself to watch it. Yeah,
I think you'll like it.
Yeah, well, I it's hard to forgive her, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Because she is glommed onto the Hollywood wokeness 100%. She constantly badmouths Jackie Chan, the man who made her career. Right.
Yep.
It's not acceptable behavior, ma'am. But
I can tell you someone else who badmouths Jackie Chan all the time too. It's Dinah. Dinah badmouths him all the time.
Well, she's from Hong Kong. I understand that. That's a whole nother aspect.
Yeah.
But Jackie has had to kind of toe the Communist Party line in China because they basically are blackmailing him with his son. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
And the Hong Kong people and the people of Taiwan are not forgiving. They don't care. So he's in a kind of a dark place here in Asia, to be honest with you. Western people, I don't think, are really aware of the situation. But that's not what Michelle is complaining about. She's just being stupid woke tart, right? And
worst part is she actually is a very good actress when she wants to be. Especially when she's given good material. Sometimes it's not her fault, but when she's given good material that makes sense for her, that is well within her wheelhouse, she's great, fantastic.
Yeah. But I mean, especially if you understand like Police Story and the stuff she was in initially, because Jackie brought her in because he saw a potential in her. And keep in mind that when Jackie Chan, when you talk about Jackie Chan, you can't use the word singular because his team that he's been with for decades, they are so well oiled, right?
True.
That's that stunt team, and them bringing in and when she started making these noises some years back, a lot of his stuntmen started speaking out, which they don't usually do. They broke ranks, and they were complaining about how much of a pain in the ass it was to carry her and all yada yada yada. They were really not pleased with her bad mouthing Jackie, which I get.
Yeah, they're loyal to Jackie.
Yeah, loyal to Jackie, but I don't understand her. But anyway, cool. All right. But yeah, go check out The Northman if you haven't.
That's if you want to make sure she doesn't get any money. Let's just put it bluntly from it. Just hoist the Jolly Roger and find it. There you go.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Done.
I am a R. Okay, let's move on here to this one.
Oh, this doesn't make me happy at all. Marvel licenses Stan Lee's likeness. New Deal opens door for CGI appearances of legendary creator in Disney theme parks and future MCU products. Now, the Disney theme parks one doesn't bother me as much because that's something we've done forever to some degree. But I don't want him in new MCU movies. I don't like that. That rubs me wrong, man. That rubs me way wrong. He's gone. Let him rest. Stop it. Stop that. That's weird to me.
Well,
really dirty.
The reality is that there is a classy way to do this, where you kind of pull like a Hitchcock, where you put him in the film, but it's like a photo here on a magazine that's a little bit out of like focus that like you would see as like an Easter egg or something like that. Like there is a legitimate classy way to do this. They're just not choosing that, right?
Yes.
No.
There's a way to do this that is steeped in film history, because that's what Hitchcock would do, right? and it would be a great.
Right.
It would be because then like it would become sort of a newer game because like we always knew what the Stan Lee cameos were, and for some people they complained about it because they felt like it took them out of the film, right? Which I can understand, but like it's tradition. And so instead, it then becomes almost like a game where like now the cameos are there, but they're harder to find. It's a true Easter egg, right?
Yep.
And I don't know. That's how I would handle it. Like I said, there's a classy way to do this. They're just not choosing
They're not
to do
going
that.
to because
Fantastic idea. That's all what they're doing.
I can barely hear you, Adrian.
I said that's a fantastic idea,
Yeah.
but that's not what they're going to do.
No,
Yeah.
because China's involved. Yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
basically, what this whole article is talking about the fight between POW Entertainment selling themselves to a Chinese company. Now, POW, there was a lot of controversy in his life where they were kind of behind a lot of the nonsense that was going on. But also, I love you, Stan, but your daughter's a shit. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And she's pushing back because
Horrible human being.
she wanted her money out of it, and the court was like, "Fuck off,"
Yep.
because she has no say in it. So she lost. But basically, it's all sewn up and done. This company is now owned by China, and they're going to rape the image of Lee to death.
Yeah. And in all
Okay.
honesty, fans of Stan Lee, not even comic book fans, just fans of Stan Lee, need to make such a loud noise that we at least try to stop something like this. Because it's morbid, man. It's morbid. He's gone. Stop it.
Yeah.
He gave us 60 years of his life, for Christ's sake. We cannot ask anything more of him. We couldn't have asked for a better representative of our hobby than him.
Right.
And it's just, it literally makes me physically ill, the thought of them digitally putting Stan Lee in a movie just to have Stan Lee in a movie. Now, the idea of having him like on a picture, or maybe there's like Spider-Man movie and there's a comic shop called Stan's and there's his face as the symbol of it or something. Okay, fine. But that's not what they're going to do. They're going to literally animate him and put him in the movie.
They are.
And that's
more
gross.
cameos.
It's gross.
That's true. Well,
gross.
It reminds me of, if you guys remember, way back a long time ago, there was quite a bit of controversy that came out, mainly out of the black community, but because I guess Dr. Dre and Eminem and Snoop were on stage doing something, and they had a hologram of Tupac. And they were singing a song along with Tupac. And there was a big bunch of hoo-ha that came out of that. And I was like, oh, well, it's a little bit more of an homage, I think. But there was controversy behind it. And now we're talking very different here. Stan Lee is an American icon for a frickin' reason. Started at 16, ended up creating one of the greatest comic book companies in history. I mean, he was literally a coffee fetcher that elbowed his way into the creative side. An actual American icon, and Tupac is kind of a shit rapper that is only popular because he died.
He was.
Wow.
Just taking shots at Tupac. Just landed them. Clean.
If I could virtually sneak my chair away from you, I would right now.
I love it.
That is a generational. It's right there. That is a generational.
Dude.
Shots fired.
Dude.
Shots fired.
I don't have to say anything more. You go listen. Tupac is a shit rapper, dude.
I will say this only.
I'm from that.
I will say this only. If you're gonna put him on a scale, I'm putting Stan Lee's winning that balance for me personally. Yeah. But I don't think Tupac was a shit rapper.
I was punching down. Let's be fair. I was punching down. But no, he is comparatively to the three people that is say. I mean, look, Dr. Dre is a legend for a reason. Eminem is the best rapper to ever lived. I mean, plain and simple, whether you like it or not. And Snoop Dogg has got the most sexy groove ever, dude. My God, Snoop Dogg, man. What a sexy groove. I mean, he's out of his brain pothead, but he's got a sexy ass groove, right? Those three dudes are very important to rap. And for different reasons.
I don't think you realize the influence of Tupac on rap.
Yeah, but that's the gangster, because he was living the life. He's the true gangster. But his rap, his musicality sucks.
Oh my God.
can argue with you on the musicality. That's your department. You're definitely going to win that one. But it's a statement to say Tupac sucks. That's a statement.
Anyway,
I mean, I will admit I was probably a bigger Biggie fan than him, but
Biggie's way better, dude.
I don't know.
Way better. Biggie's
I think we hit it. We found it. We got to the root of it. See, it's that old rivalry. He's still got it. He's still got the blood.
Thundero, are we once again fucking East Coast, West Coasting this shit? Is that what this is coming down to again?
Yeah.
We can never fucking escape it.
Don't let it go. It won't be let go of ever.
Dude, just so you know, I am the hip hop generation.
Oh boy, listen to this Gen Xer. Listen to him. Oh yes, we did everything. Yeah, we get it.
Well,
we got it. You're great.
No, certainly not. I will not take any responsibility whatsoever for grunge, even though it is my generation's fault. I'm not
That's
taking
yours,
responsibility for it. I ain't taking
no.
it. I ain't
It's
taking
on your plate.
But anyway, let's move
I
on.
say this with nothing but love, Chet. Okay, boomer.
Oh, yeah, that my parents are the boomers, you bastard.
I know. I'm saying it ironically.
I know. And, one thing about that dumbass girl, she's sexy as shit, though, dude. That little girl, the OK Boomer girl, the Bernie Sanders girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's okay.
I mean, she's an idiot, but, I mean, that little video, when it came out, I was like, what was all this noise? I went and watched it. Oh, man, she's just dripping. Yeah. So,
She's also got on about 3 gallons of makeup, so that helps.
Well, no, she's a moron. And she screwed it up. She's just stupid.
She's
But
also super rich.
Chester's confessing that he's willing to fuck her on a pile of Tupac CDs.
All the time.
Any day, baby. Any day. Fuck Tupac. I want Heavy D. Give me some Heavy D up in here. Goddamn Tupac. All right. Moving
I'm not
on.
going to disagree with him. I would take Heavy D over Tupac in a minute.
Way better groove, dude. Smooth.
Oh, no.
Smooth.
I see the next one. It's going to anger me, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh, boy. Thor Love and Thunder director Taika Waititi describes it as, quote, midlife crisis film. Wanted to make, quote, least expected thing with this franchise. All right, Taika, buddy. Thor is like 1,500-ish years old. I don't think he should be having a midlife crisis. I think he should have figured this out a long time ago.
Well, movie canon, they made him much younger. They went with the God Butcher story. He's only 750.
Oh, only. Yeah, he's a spry chicken. Yeah. Spry young chicken.
Yeah, the whole thing they did with the word stupid, because he isn't. He is immortal in sense. And
As somebody explained to old Taika that the whole midlife crisis thing with Thor has been done at least 4 times already, including the fucking movie he did.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, they just hate Thor, dude. They hate Thor. They hate him. And what a shame, because I knew from the trailer that's what they were doing anyway. You could tell he's like on a spiritual journey, right?
It's a spirit quest.
You mean a bunch of effeminate weirdos hating a masculine men? No, I would have never suspected
And look at
that.
the Asgard Council. Look at them all. All the ladies are judging. They're judging. Okay, you judge that man. The boy that is 80s though. I mean, come on. What was that cartoon? It was like part of another show. Maybe it was Dexter's Laboratory, and it had these superheroes. You had Krunk, and one of the guys was Thor, but he was like a guitar playing Thor.
Yeah. Van Hammer.
Van Hammer or something like that. Yeah. This reminds me of that. That was cool. Or maybe Spinal Tap. I'll go with Spinal Tap. But yeah, fuck off, film.
Yeah, just please.
Yeah. Damn it, dude.
Just kill him already. Just please kill him. Get it over with. It's going to be a mercy killing at this point.
Look at this shit, dude. Why?
What is he wearing? First of all, what is that outfit?
I recognize this from someone's run, actually.
That's terrible. Yeah. Whoever did that should be aborted from the industry. Get him out.
Yeah.
That looks horrible. Come on.
I have to say though, old Natalie, she stiffed herself up. She's still scrawny as hell, but she tried. You can tell she tried a little
She
bit.
did. She put the work in. She gets props
She
for
got
that.
some muscle on her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give him.
She's still not fuckable. Sorry.
Well, she's a lesbian anyway, dude. So what are you worried about?
I wouldn't care.
She wouldn't want your dick.
If I was a lesbian, I wouldn't even take my strap on out of the closet.
What? No, stop talking about Tupac like that, man. That's not right.
God.
Anyway, yeah, this movie is an abortion. We know it. I'm not watching it. Fuck that noise, dude.
No, I won't be
Because
watching
it's
it
just
either.
more hate on Thor. It's just going to be more hate on Thor. And I don't even care about all the other stuff. I don't care. It's just hating on Thor, man. I'm not interested in your bullshit. And you know, once again, give him frickin' Mjolnir back. What the hell?
Yeah. She can have the big one.
Yeah, let her have it.
What I would like to have happen is somebody pull Taika to the side and say, "Hey, look, man. I know you've had a bunch of projects and people have blown a lot of smoke up your ass. But there's only one thing you've done well, and that's what we do in the shadows. And I'm starting to wonder just how much of that you actually contributed to."
Yeah.
Just stick to that.
Yeah.
Just stick to that.
No, he's great at the smaller stuff. He's great at the smaller stuff. I don't like his big budget projects. I don't hate Ragnarok as much as Chester does, but I do dislike how much there's just too much tomfoolery. I'll use that term in it.
Well, it is silly. Yeah.
And it has a lot of this same problem Chester's talking about, where even at the end, Thor, even though he goes through this big journey emotionally, right, and he seemingly gets something like the Odin Force or the Thor Force or whatever you want to call it at the end or near the end, or realizes it's in him all along, whatever, and he still can't beat the bad guy without help. I'm just like, what am I watching?
Well,
third movie in, by the way. What am I watching?
We have 5 movies now, including this one, or more actually, where Thor is supposed to be on this journey to learn. Because film 1, Odin throws down, "You're a petulant child, fuck off to Earth and learn something," right?
That's right.
Right?
Right.
And along the way, he's supposedly learning and growing. But then all of a sudden, he isn't learning and growing anymore. Matter of fact, he's completely knocked down. He's completely useless. He's completely given up. So much so that he puts a villain in charge of his people, which doesn't make sense. There is a little lady over there called Sith who's fucking royalty. She would be the one in charge, if anybody. But, you know, we got rid of her for some reason. I guess she's too pretty. And anyone notice that how much more buff Natalie Portman is to this little whatever she is?
Oh, discount Rihanna?
Is that what she is? Yeah, the forehead, though. I don't know about the forehead.
When you want Rihanna, but all you can afford is great value, that's Tessa Thompson.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. But I don't even care about this nonsense. I don't care about it. I just am sick and tired of you hating on Thor and belittling him and making him small because he, you know, in the first film, at least he was the macho guy. Because that's, you know, one of the problems he was having. He was too macho. His dad, like, you need to grow up. You know, I'm going to die soon.
You don't want to see a movie with the console of Dusty Dykes?
No, I don't. I'm not interested in that. But that's not. I don't even care about that. I'm talking more about this continued spiritual journey of Thor. What the fuck is wrong with you, dude? It's, you know, if they were doing kind of a spin back to the God Butcher, which sounds like they were going to do, and they probably are in some weird way.
It sounded like they sort of are doing, but they're messing it up already. You can tell.
Yeah, it's just woohoo! It's gonna be fun, and ooh, it's the least thing you expected from this franchise. Hippie Thor, yeah, dude, go with JJ, have your little sex parties with him, okay, and fuck off.
So the God Butcher is in this, so I'm wondering how much of a role he's going to be playing, because to do the God Butcher right, it's got to be focused heavily on the God Butcher. Like, there's no more room for these other people. It's him and Thor. That's what the God Butcher storyline is.
He'll be another goofy villain. They'll have a scene with him doing the Macarena or some bullshit.
It'll be stupid. Whereas they should do it, the God Butcher story, they should do it in complete series on that, right? Like literally Disney Plus series.
They could.
But they're not. It's going to be throwaway, just like was it Mericlith or who was
just like Ragnarok For Christ's sake, they threw that away in one movie.
Yeah, I know.
Ah,
It's insane, dude. What they're doing, it's just insane. And I'm not talking about it anymore.
good. I like that. First trailer. Oh, here we go. First trailer for Predator film Prey teases Comanche girl to face off with a predator. Plot synopsis sounds terrible. That's good to hear,
No
Trent.
shit.
Okay. All right.
The winner of the No Shit Award goes to
Okay.
John F. Trent.
I need to breathe. I'm gonna breathe. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Now,
I'm going to give him room.
okay. Now, first of all, we're talking about an advanced alien killing machine out for fun. Okay. And this scrawny little thing ain't got to do much without nuclear weapons. And do keep in mind that old Arnold, who would literally eat this woman for breakfast, couldn't beat it, right?
couldn't beat it with Carl Weathers and Jesse Ventura, and I'm supposed to buy that is going to be
and an
a
Apache.
Predator.
He had an Apache with him. Okay, but
I
here
don't think he could beat the Booty Warrior if he was still alive.
it's so unbelievable. But here's the bigger problem that I'm having with this. She is supposed to be a Comanche, right? And I don't think the creator of this movie knows what a Comanche is. I really don't.
I don't either.
Because he's talking about her people. And yeah, okay. Well, so let me give you a little bit of a insight into what a Comanche is. The Comanche, or better known as what they call themselves, because they're actually not Comanche, by the way. That is a derogative term given them by the Shoshone, right? Their name for themselves are the Nermanu, right? That's what the Comanche are, right? They're the Nermanu, but they are Shoshone, is what they are. But there was a bunch of raids and a bunch of wars and things that were going on, and they were very troublesome, and they got forced out. And then they went down and just murdered all the Apache. Is basically what they did, right? And the reason they're called the Comanche, what?
You saying Indians killed Indians?
Oh yes, quite a lot. But the reason that the Shoshone call them Comanche is because Comanche means hater of the world and that which fights everything, meaning they're troublesome and noisy and they just won't stop fighting and killing people. They're murderous. That's what Comanche means, murderous, right? And it's a derogatory term.
Right.
They're not a tribe of fucking people. They're outcasts of the Shoshone.
Right.
So why is the Comanche girl and her little party of friends, because she out here? Why is she going to be fighting a predator? Because keep in mind, the Comanche were a very small group, just so many thousands of them, right? They weren't a huge Indian group because they're outcasts. They've been pushed out of their Shoshone culture, and they were way troublesome. Matter of fact, the American military for a long time used Comanche tactics to train their soldiers because they were badass fighters for sure, but they're more of a sect or a cult or a coven of Indians, not a tribe, right? And one thing about those several thousand Comanche, that was really kind of interesting. They're all men. They're all men. When they wanted women, they would steal other people's women, and they didn't care what color they were. They weren't a tribe.
Didn't they just? Yeah, right.
So
Well,
now,
obviously, the writers didn't know the history.
none. And I know that Thundera likes to laugh at the fact that what I get triggered by. Okay?
Yep.
But this is fucking insulting, dude. And the people today, the actual people today most of they've kind of had a reconciliation with each other with the Shoshone, but you do have people who today who do consider themselves Nermanu, but they don't call themselves Comanche. Only Hollywood does this.
That's right.
And not only that, you have a girl who's a Comanche girl. What? Where? When?
How?
What Comanche girl? What are you talking about? Now, if they had, it's dumb, but whatever. You got this unbeatable alien. It doesn't matter. It's a female. You can make an interesting movie. That's not the issue. But at least make her Shoshone or make her a Blackfoot or Cheyenne or something, right? Make her part of an actual tribe. But a freaking Comanche? God damn it, dude.
Nobody tell Chet that predators aren't real either. You can only take so much.
You know what I'm talking about, Ben.
I know. I'm just giving you shit. I'm just giving you shit.
Fine, but I mean, how much research would it have been to understand? Oh yeah, maybe if we're going to use a girl, we should go with another tribe. I mean, what 5 minutes, a minute? I mean, for God's sake, dude. And I trust me, all the people who enjoy, and there's a lot of people in America who enjoy studying Native American histories because why not? It's part of our history. Why wouldn't you? And they all of them know this. The Comanche are a very unique situation in Native American history of what they are, and they were badass and they were murderous. Watch out, dude. Right? And I thought you were half German, but I suppose you have a little bit of Comanche in you too, Grimlock?
Yes, amongst many things.
All right. But anyway, that's my rant.
Chester, I can explain this.
Please.
You really expected Hollywood to do research. We can't get this close. We can't get these numbnuts to read a book on a franchise they bought the IP to do a series for. You expected them to actually read history? Man,
boring ass history. Yeah,
they don't have enough. After their morning line of cocaine, they don't have enough functioning brain cells to rub together to read a fucking book.
Yeah, it just irritates the hell out of me. I get your point. Of course they wouldn't, but they, I don't even mind the girl thing, because in this case you're dealing with this unstoppable thing. You're especially in this time period, you ain't stopping that. You're not beating that. You have to outwit it.
I do, because she's small as fuck. Could you not get a woman that at least looks like she could kick somebody's ass?
Well, I'm assuming she's going to outwit it somehow. She's not going to fight it directly. I'm assuming most of the film she's running away. And actually, if you read this, the predator is actually fighting here, tracking down some supernatural beast that lives, a Wendigo or something like that. So it's actually not hunting her at all. It's doing something else, and she decides to insinuate herself into the situation. And that's okay, fine. Like I said, I don't really
So
care
they make
that
a
it's
Predator movie with a Karen, is what you're saying.
maybe I don't know. But it's just the Comanche thing just set me off. But also it is a bit sad, because the first two Predator movies were fun. They've had some other stuff that were kind of fun, but it's been going down, dude. It's been going down, and I don't understand how hard it is to tell that story. I mean, first of all, why don't you do something that's just Predator, that's not on Earth at all? Why don't you go do something on their home planet? We've seen it. Give us a little bit more on the Predators, or I just something more fun. How hard is it? It's an alien hunter killing thing. What the hell?
Wasn't the movie with Adrian Brody that was on an off planet somewhere, wasn't it?
It was. And
that
it
was actually pretty good.
Yeah,
that was fun. That was the last true Predators.
Yeah, I
film.
liked it.
Yeah.
But the last.
Well, the worst part for me is that they've completely lost the entire nuance. I hate that word, but that's the right word, of the first Predator movie. The first Predator movie is not a typical monster hunter movie. It is at the start, and then it switches, and he becomes the Predator. Beautiful. That's the whole point of the naming, and that's the whole point of the movie, is who's hunting, who's the hunter and who's the prey, who's the Predator here.
That's right. And
completely have lost that.
Well, the second one kind of changed that too. I mean, because Danny Glover's just running around trying not to get killed most of that movie.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, that's true. But then again, his story arc is very different than Arnold's or Dutch's, right? And the point that Thundaro makes is an important one, because in this last one we have this actual debacle. What did they do in that? They actually mocked the name of their own series in their movie. right?
Ugh.
Not
Right.
understanding that Arnold was the predator, you dumbass.
Right. That's right.
Because they don't get it, right? And look at the other stupid shit they did in there. Now, so the predators are only coming here not because they're just big game hunters, but they're coming here because they're collecting DNA to improve themselves. Fuck off, dude.
Yeah.
And you know, the stupidity with the autism is the future. Once again, fuck off. Stop picking on the autistic kids, you bastards. That's you know,
It's,
Bruce Willis started that shit with Mercury Rising. I blame Bruce.
That's the pretentious nature of human or mankind, because humans think they are probably the smartest things in the universe. So
But
of course aliens are going to take our DNA. Of
Oh
course
man, the universe is
aliens are going to
screwed.
take our DNA.
well, there's a
we
reason we
got
haven't met aliens
we
yet.
have a group of
Yeah.
people who identify themselves as fucking rabbits. There's no way in the hell an alien's gonna come here, see that shit, and go, "That's an improvement."
No,
That
true.
seems like people I want to get involved with right there.
Stay away from that.
If you go by the non-Christian, if you go by like what's the one guy that talked about how aliens seeded the planet, and that's where humans came from?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
that was
the
the Aliens
Alien vs
franchise.
Predator or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, aliens.
No, the guy that wrote books about it, he talks about Samaritan text.
Oh,
Like,
Oh, you're talking
L. Ron
about
Hubbard.
Zachariah Sitchin. Yeah, okay.
Stitching,
yes, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you go by that, the aliens are probably looking at us thinking, "Golly, we made big mistake."
Yeah, that's true. Well, in the conclusion of the Sumerian stories, because all Sitchin's really doing is translating
Uh-oh. We've
the
done it
stories.
now.
Well, no, I'm just going to give the very end of it. In the very end of the last bit of Babylonian stories that we got, it says it's quite interesting in that regard because a bunch of the aliens had come from their planet to visit Earth. And they were just having a bit of a gala, a little bit of a party. And one of the, royal daughters that had been on Earth for quite a while helping, she was actually instrumental in the creating of humans in this story. She's called the nurse. She's also the great cow of India, by the way. Her name is Ninhursag. But she had Hathor. She's got other names. But anyway, in this gala, this party they're having of these kind of VIP guests from their home planet, she meets one of her classmates when she was a kid, and on their planet. Of course, they age different than we do. Although in those Sumerian stories, they say that they intentionally made humans' lifespan short because we're slaves. We're created as workers, right? But her classmate was so much younger looking than her. And it created a panic. Well, why is that? That's weird. What's going on? So they actually started looking into it because they hadn't noticed, I guess. And they found that there was something in Earth's atmosphere, or that was in the environment of Earth, that was causing them to rapidly age. And therefore, what they did, what the royal house on the planet did, was they quarantined the planet, and no one from their planet was allowed to come here again. And the ones that stayed here because if they went back, they found because this went on beyond the gala. They started researching it that they would die quickly. So they were stuck here, and that's it. We don't have any more stories beyond that. We have thousands of years worth of stories coming out of the Mesopotamia, and it ends like that. It's quite interesting, so maybe Earth is simply quarantined, and that's why we
Maybe.
don't see aliens. If you
Maybe.
believe the stories.
Or maybe they rule the
I
world.
hadn't heard that.
What was
Either that or they rule the world, Chester. It's very possible.
Oh, either or, whatever you like. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But they are similarly, and thank goodness for Zachariah Sitchin, because like I said, all he did was really translate things. But what he more important than that, he sparked an interest, right? Because think about well, you guys aren't old enough, but when I was a kid, no one talked about Mesopotamia. It was only Egypt and Rome. That's it, right? But because he sparked interest, people started researching. People had different ideas. Whatever. It's gone on for decades and decades here. What 40+ years? And that's the
Yeah.
gift that Zechariah gave, was the sparking of information. And now we know so much more about Mesopotamia than we did before, and that's good.
It's good. It's good to know where you come from.
Yeah. So but anyway, it's this just sounds. Man, I hope it's good though, because I do like me some Predator. That
I
last
like
movie
one
was so
Predator
good.
movie.
I've kind of enjoyed little pieces of all of them except for the last one. The last one was just, I would use the word irreverent to the IP.
I was thinking idiotic.
Okay, that's fine. The urbanese. Anyway, go ahead, Ben.
No, the urbanese would be bullshit.
Okay, fine. Someone was trying to say something?
No.
No? Okay. But I don't know. All we could do is hope, because I know, once again, with articles like this and other articles, they're like, it's a woman. Okay, whatever. Just like with Glover in the second one, he wasn't about beating the thing; it was about surviving it, right? And you could do the same kind of story with a lady; it doesn't matter at all. But it just seems odd, especially with the way they're going and the purpose of things. It doesn't make sense. And this whole Comanche thing, I mean, come on, dude. I'm wondering if the Shoshone are going to be pissed off by it. Do Indians get pissed off easily? Are they pissy like white Karens?
It's usually the white
Only
Karens.
when you want to try to put an oil pipeline through their land, I guess.
Well, I mean, shit, man. They've had so much land taken. I mean, can you blame them?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying that that's the only time I think they've gotten pissed off recently. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me
Things
as
like this, I
Indians
don't
are
think,
kind
I
of
don't
pissy.
think this will piss. I don't think this will piss them off.
How about those
I think
native?
they'll probably just roll their eyes and be like, "It's Hollywood again, messing us up."
Probably, yeah. Ben, down there in Texas, how do those native Mexican Indians feel about it? Because they're not actually Indians. They're they're like the rest of us, but they think they're native. What do they think? Are they pissy?
It's a complicated relationship down here. Uh, you know, a really good question is like specifically over in Mexico, right? Because like I feel like or there's a lot of this question about losing land and conquerors and stuff like that, and I think that the conversation about like it's not commonly talked about, but like technically Mexico was conquered by the Spanish, the conquistadors and
Well,
stuff.
the Mexicans
And
are
so
the conquerors. That's true. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, right? So, it's a as complicated a relationship as we have in the States, it's even more so over in
Well,
Mexico,
you would
right?
think so, because one of the big differences between North America and the South, south of us, is the North America main the majority of Europeans come in and were settlers, and they were religious settlers, so they bred amongst themselves mainly. As time went by, we certainly got more mixing and stuff, of course, but they were settlers, right? And sometimes they got along with the Indians, sometimes they didn't. Often they sided with one group or another. Is really what happened. But in the South, we have a completely different situation. You have soldiers coming in, conquering and taking and setting up mining interests and all other kind of things. Soldiers who took local women because they're soldiers. They have no women amongst them. So they took the women and they raped the culture into being Mexican, right? So it's
Right.
a very different thing. You have a settler culture who is not really mixing with the natives, and you have another culture that is a complete result of the mixing.
Right.
Well,
I
isn't the Spanish I mean, the slave trade came up through the South
oh
from the
sure, yeah,
Spaniards.
yeah, down to Venezuela and Brazil and stuff like that, and the islands is where most of the trade was centered. Yeah, that's true. But anyway, whatever. But Man, I would really like a good Predator movie, wouldn't you?
Be nice.
With like a lot
Be
of good
nice.
stuff, but we ain't getting it.
She's cute. She's not bad to look at, dude. I mean, and then she
I
is
don't dislike
Indian.
the premise. I like the premise. It's just historically, like you were saying, they could have just changed a few things, and it would have been better.
And
Well, I think part of the problem is that a lot of people just don't understand the source material. In that the beauty of Predator has always been that it's a genre mashup, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It's a genre mashup. Like think about how the original Predator started. Super hyper testosterone. Like Pearl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger doing the most manly handshake ever recorded in all of human history.
Ever.
Right.
Yeah.
Every bicep is perfectly oiled, every machismo. And then you're presented with this otherworldly threat where normally in horror films you see it's like teenage girls like running away and you're like, oh man, I would just fucking fight it. But like now you have this otherworldly like entity and it's not the teenage girls running away, it's like the most manly of men and they're getting their asses handed to them.
Isn't it
so
beautiful?
It's a genre mashup of a horror film with a hyper testosterone action film, and that's what made it beautiful.
Yeah.
And nobody since then has understood that's the secret of it.
Yeah,
they try to make it either just an action film, they miss the horror, or they just don't understand it.
Or simple enough as Thundero's point, they didn't understand the name of the movie is Arnold. Arnold's the Predator, not the alien hunter, right?
Right.
Well,
It's kind of like a origin story of Arnold's character becoming the Predator in response to the Predator creature, because like Ben was saying, that the first part of it is basically a action horror movie. It's this thing is hunting them, and they have no chance against it. They can't. These men who we see are badasses, right? By all accounts, super badasses, and they're just getting wiped out like they're nothing.
Yeah, and you notice that macho arm clasp, we'll call it, the hand clasp, that Weathers lost that arm, didn't he? They saw it flying through the air and bouncing on the ground.
Yes.
Symbolism.
Yeah, that was pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Yep. Such a good movie. It genuinely is. I think it's one of the most beloved yet still underrated movies because so many people just think it's an action movie. And it's not.
No,
it's one of Arnold's best performances because it's so subtle in its shift.
Yeah. It is beautiful. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll try to put the Comanche thing, and I won't also bring in geology to it or topography. I won't do that at all, seeing as we seem to be walking through misty forest in Comanche territory. Huh?
But listen,
They were
America's a strange place.
The Badlands, I think, is where they were pushed into. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of misty forests there, Chester. Don't complain.
All right, fine.
Gosh.
And
it comes off as a movie made by people who've never actually explored. It comes off as a movie made by people who've never actually explored this country, have no idea of the topography they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's almost as if it's supposed to be either in Lakota territory or maybe even over with the Five Tribes area north around Niagara, is what it looks like. And it's like, well, we got a lot of tribes there. Why couldn't she be a Mohican?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, there you go.
Why not?
Why not a Mohican?
Yeah. But nope, we're in Arizona with all the trees and grass and mists.
Yes,
with
all those
Comanche
deep green
girls.
forests of Arizona.
Wonderful.
So stupid.
It's so stupid.
So stupid.
Maybe they're a migrating tribe of Comanche.
Yeah.
Maybe they
Yeah.
are.
They go all the
a
way
damn
from
desert?
New England to they go from New England to Arizona in the span of a couple weeks.
And I don't even know the time setting because I haven't seen the film. It could be. I'm sure it's set in a time before the Comanche existed. I'm sure it is. I'm positive.
Probably.
That's what I was going to ask. Is this set in a time when the Comanche didn't even exist?
Right, because they hadn't had the Civil War yet. But what did they
Right.
know? But it's just like the Northmen we were talking about earlier. There's no need to be penny about it. But the Dnieper River scenes in that movie are centuries out of date.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm. Yeah.
But that's okay.
He's in the land of the Russ.
I guess he is.
I just like that reference because we had that conversation, I'll call it, about the Ukraine stuff and Russ, the land of the Russ, and it was an interesting coincidence that it just happened to be that's where part of that movie takes place.
I doubt it was a coincidence at all.
Right away. Look at this guy with his tinfoil hat.
Well,
Here he goes.
Because the only referencing was written on the screen. It could have been anywhere.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's actually true.
Because keep in mind, they didn't refer to them as Rus. They referred to them as Christians.
Yep.
That's true too.
Yeah.
But he did catch that spear, and that was cool.
That was badass. Yes, it was. But actually, I love the little present. Now, that was actually an argument you would have heard back in this time. These strange Christians who worship a corpse nailed to a tree and drink upon its undead blood. Yeah, that is what they do.
Yep.
Yeah, what a great reference! Because I guarantee you, a lot of the peoples, when the Christianity was pushing in, the Catholicism was pushing in, would have had that argument. What? You want me to worship a dead thing on a tree? You want me to eat at it and drink at its blood? What?
Well, not only that, someone who was killed, a weakling? No,
Yeah,
we won't be worshiping that.
That's true.
Yeah, we won't be worshiping that.
Yeah, you guys ever watch the show The Last Kingdom? They literally have this argument throughout, good chunks of this show.
Oh, do they? Yeah, I think I saw some of it.
Yeah.
I did break down and watch the that mini series, I guess, or I don't know what you call it, Barbarians.
Heard of it.
And it's not. I don't think it's American made, but it was a Netflixy thing. And on with Arminius and stuff like that. And I just can't, Thundero. My God, the historical inaccuracies are. Oh God, dude.
You get one, Chester.
How many trees did you knock over in anger seeing that?
3.
You get one. You get one major suspension of disbelief per thing, and when it's purports itself to be historical in any way, and then it's just not. That's hard for some people who know that to swallow that pill.
Yeah, no, it is.
A lot of those shows are very inaccurate. I would say, and I've even watched Viking YouTubers talk about this, but The Last Kingdom has its inaccuracies, but it's the most accurate from what I've heard.
Well,
from many people.
The thing with when we're talking about Scandinavians or the Swabians, or even the Seka, if we want to broaden it out. The thing about them is they were nowhere near as violent as they're portrayed. Nowhere near. They were actually quite civilized. They had democracy, for fuck's sake, dude. They had full trade networks. It just wasn't. Hollywood needs the blood and gore. I get it. I understand it, but it just not that violent, dude. Most of the Viking Age was not actually pirate raiders, and keep in mind the Scandinavian kings would arrest and punish them if they found them because they're freaking bandits, dude. Most of the action during that was because the weather got really cold, and people were seeking colonization and settling south to get to warmer lands. It was actual settlements that was going on in the Viking Age, not a Viking. But Hollywood,
Yeah, well, a lot of people get Vikings mixed up with being the race as well, when Vikings were more of
Well, it's
an
a verb.
occupation.
Yeah, it's a verb.
Right.
It means to
You'd
raid.
go Viking.
A raider.
You would go Viking.
You go
Yeah.
Well,
Viking.
The Last Kingdom takes place during Alfred the Great's time period, and how the Danes are trying to basically invade England. But
so it's the
there's a
creation
lot
of the
of
Danehold.
yes,
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I might actually. So it's dealing with the last of the Britons.
yes, and how King Alfred brings about England to being what it becomes later, basically.
Oh, okay.
And
That sounds interesting.
but the main character, he's from England, but he was taken in by a Viking family and kind of like at a young age captured, but then adopted.
Yeah, no, they did
So
that quite
his
a
whole
bit. Yeah.
yeah, right. So his whole tale is about him trying to get his because he's a prince. He's trying to get the kingdom of Northumbria back because
Oh,
his
okay.
uncle
Right.
took it.
All right. So I get it. So it's all of the ultimate creation of the Danehold. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And there's like people like Hubba and Canute shows up in it eventually, and like a bunch of different people from lore as well as like historical.
that
It's
sounds
a good
interesting.
show.
I should
You should
check it
try
out.
it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Everyone.
like in the Northman movie we just watched, except for Ben, we see that how horribly they treat the slaves. The
Right.
Scandinavian people did take slaves, but they did not treat them like that at all. They certainly
That's
didn't
right.
brand them, for fuck's sake. They actually became
Yeah.
parts of the family. They were not treated like that at all. And you certainly wouldn't have a Jarl because I don't know. Is he a Jarl? Maybe he's a Thane. He's probably a Thane. He clearly has connection to a Jarl that's sending tribute to him. I think he's a Thane in that movie. They don't say. I'm sorry, what, Ben? Or Adrian?
I think he's a thing.
I think so, yeah. But he just willy nilly goes around starting cutting the throats of slaves. What? He would never do such a thing. What
Yeah.
an outrageous thing. Because the only way you take life, the gods decide who lives and dies. And that is what battle is about. You don't go
Right.
around
Yeah,
murdering
which
people.
is
They didn't have
true.
death penalties in Scandinavia for fuck. I mean, god damn it, dude.
Especially for a
Saturday.
man that clearly throughout the movie is a very religious man within his religion, right?
Yes, he's a worshiper of Frey.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Frey
Trial by
actor.
combat.
Yeah, no, I mean they don't do that. I mean, and
Yeah.
when I saw that scene, I was like, "What the hell are you doing, man?"
And
There's
they
no
easily
way
could
he
have
would do that.
too. They could have just gave them a sword and said, come here. Basically,
That
right?
would
Just
be
have them
more
do it that
likely.
way.
Yeah, no, they
Yeah.
would do stuff like that if there was an argument and arbitration could not be come to. They would do the three shield roll, right?
Yeah.
And that's how they did it. You got three
Right.
shields, you go out and you win, you prove yourself in combat. And the only time I've ever seen that in a movie was one with Kirk Douglas had it in a movie, and another one, oddly enough, was the strange retelling of Beowulf called 13 Warriors with Antonio Banderas.
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
You got to say it right, Chester. Come on. Antonio Banderas.
Antonio Banderas.
That's right.
But yeah.
Everybody loves
Some
Antonio
sex-
They
Banderas.
have back to the Last Kingdom. They actually have like those death by combat, those duels and
Sure.
stuff to solve problems throughout
Yeah,
quite a bit.
That's how they dealt with it. If you call for arbitration and arbitration cannot be found, you can take that option. And most people
That's
didn't,
right.
though,
Yeah.
right? They didn't because they either were strong enough to win or not. And that's an interesting little aspect they had in their culture was you're not going to make a lot of trouble unless you can back it up. Right.
Yep.
And
Right.
but yet, if someone was being a bully, like Eric the Red, for instance, you could get arbitration, judicially, and many times that was brought against him because he was a loud, annoying, brutal drunk. Eric the Red.
Well, they were
I think
they
that's
were
the
a
thing
globe.
that's wrong with
They were largely a globe-trotting people. I mean, they were very sophisticated. It's weird to me how they've become seen. Well, it's not weird. I know why, but they become seen as brutes more than what
Right.
they actually were. They were a completely sophisticated civilization for a very long time. They traveled all across basically what was the world at the time, even made it over here, and like now you have a lot of people trying to rewrite history because they find little trinkets here or there that maybe have like Allah written on them or stuff like that. So they try and say that Muslims have always been in Sweden, stuff like that,
Well, it's just
weird
a
stuff like
spin-off
that.
of Christianity. It's just a spin-off
Yes,
of Christianity. Now it's
yeah.
become its kind of own thing now, but just like Christianity is its own thing now, it's not Jew
But
anymore.
the reality of it is they were trading with Muslim countries.
Sure.
So why wouldn't they have trinkets from there? Like, yo, that's cool. That looks cool. I'll buy that. You don't think that happened? Of course it did.
But
Of course it did.
you also have to keep in mind. You have to keep in mind the Roman authority, or the Greek authority, or the Egyptian authority.
Yep.
These are all the same people, right? The people out
Right.
to the east and to the north in Scandinavia, they're simply on the frontier. It would be kind of like comparing American East Coast, would have these beautiful brick buildings, just gorgeous cities built up, and then the Wild West where people are literally trudging through mud. That's the
Yep.
comparison. Same
Right.
people, right?
Yeah.
Same culture. And I think people misunderstand that quite a bit because they always want to
Well, I think
separate
the
it.
thing that Vikings do, why they get what like why so many people associate him with the raids and stuff is because of people like Eric the Red or whatever, because like he was loud and he's known throughout history for his
Oh,
antics,
he's
basically.
bad. Yeah, yeah.
With all the
I'd say it
people
was
that hear about, a lot of the guys that you hear about in Viking history are the ones that were kind of the bad guys. They weren't really the ones that were
yeah.
the law
True, but
abiding.
you also have people like Leif Erikson, who was a really good guy. He was an explorer. He's a good guy. Actually,
Yeah.
my home state is the only place that I know of that celebrates Leif Erikson Day.
That's interesting.
It is. Well, we have a lot of old Vinland ruins in is particularly in my
Oh
hometown.
yeah.
We have quite a bit of that. And I've only seen one movie try to explore what happened just slightly. I think it's called Pathfinder. Pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Uh,
Because what did happen? Because they were over there, mining and collecting. They were business oriented, sure. But they did create settlements all the way from Nova Scotia all the way down to Rhode Island, Connecticut, right? They had
Yep.
settlements. They were there, and then they're not,
yeah,
right?
right.
So
And
So
they
did they die
seemingly
off?
explored. They seemingly
Because
explored all the way into like the Midwest, all the way to
yeah,
Minnesota and
that's
places.
true. Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that's what happened. They mixed into the thing. But keep in mind another issue that.
well,
Go ahead, Adrian.
well, my father-in-law has brought up. He's a big historical person. He's actually related distantly to the Clark. Like Lewis and Clark.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Um, he's big into history, especially that time period of history and stuff. And one of the things we were talking about was the Mohicans, and he brought up the fact that there's history books from that time describing the Mohicans, and some of them had blonde hair.
Oh, sure.
So
Oh no, and that was the point I was going to make,
they were
Adrian.
larger.
There is a big lie when it comes to American history, because
Yeah.
the
Right.
idea is there was nothing but savage Indians in the Americas. It's not true. There, of course, were natives. There were also white people living here. There were also black people living
Oh,
in
he's
the
a
Americas.
hotep. Chester outed himself as a hotep right there.
Well, there were black people in Americas,
I
though.
know.
We know there were.
There were even giants, Chester. I've seen their skeletons.
Well, I mean, the people of that land thought they were. They were quite clear about
Seen
it.
them.
It wasn't a mythology. They were like, oh, they live over there. Um,
Yeah.
Matter of fact, in the Pennsylvania area, there
Yep.
was a
In
tribe.
Ohio.
Yeah, there was a
I was
tribe
going to
who
say,
was, they were certainly 7+ footers. They were
Yep.
really big. They were white dudes. They, once again, probably coming from that Scandinavian ilk. And they were so noisy and troublesome because they dominated everybody. But when the settlers came in, settlers had these little thing called guns, you see, and they wouldn't take the shit from those big old white, Indian dudes, and they'd shoot them, and their power went down. And as soon as the rest of the tribes had an opportunity, they took it, and they got wiped out. Little by little, the last group of them, I think there was 5 of them, were in a fort somewhere in the Ohio Valley. They had moved them to, I think it
Yep.
was.
I've been to that fort.
Yeah, and basically during the night, a bunch of raiders snuck into the fort, went into where the room they were being protected in, not held, protected, and murdered them all. That was the end of that particular group. With the Sachaquanets or the Sachaquanets or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
But there are many stories like that. It's not just one. So there's a big lie when it comes to American history. There were
No, we have that fort preserved here in Ohio, in Southern. I've been to it.
Yeah.
And they have where all the mounds are and stuff, like the Serpent Mound and all these other mounds that are dotted all around the Midwest. But yeah, that fort still absolutely exists. My wife and I have been to it. It's a pain in the ass to get to, but it's there. It exists. Well, I say the fort exists. The tiny little bit of structure that's left, and then what they've recreated is there. But yeah, they even have like a little museum that talks about some of that stuff, right? How it was a last stand for a tribe, and the other tribes wiped them out, and all that stuff.
Well, yeah.
So there is some acknowledgement of it, but it's buried.
Locally,
right? It's all
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, like if my wife was watching the 3 Mile Island special documentary on Netflix, and of course I grew up during that, and it's really interesting because if you were near it, which I kind of was, you know all about 3 Mile Island. Right, but if you don't, you don't know anything. So local stuff tends to be, because they're proud of it, right? And they want to present it. But yeah, no, the Americas were multi-ethnic actually. Now, how long they had been that is an argument. For instance, when you talk about the Cro-Magnon, which is us, it's it's white people. When you're talking about them, we know that they come from up around North America in the Northeast, New England area, all the way out to Ohio, up into Canada. That's where the Cro-Magnons come from genetically. We know that. So even though it seems most of them had certainly had somehow traveled over to the European areas, that doesn't mean that pockets of them didn't survive. And that when the European expansion started coming in America, that they didn't run into them. They could have easily been some of the original whites that were there. It's possible. It's possible.
White.
Right?
Yeah.
The white man. Gotta watch out for him. He's dangerous. He's shifty.
Yeah,
that white man.
That's true. Anyway, I do have to get myself working.
That's to go to work.
I am. But that was fun. So Ben, would you like to give a closing comment of some kind?
Sure. Despite the consternations that we have on this show, there's still a lot of really good entertainment out there to watch.
Oh, sure.
And it's all in good fun here, right? We're a bunch of friends, and in reality, we like more than we hate, and that's what makes the world beautiful.
It's true, except for fucking Comanche girls.
I tried to end on a high note, Chet. We're bringing it to a high note.
Yay, Comanche girls! Yay! Yay!
It doesn't even have to be about the Comanche girls anymore, Chet.
I'm fine. I'm sorry.
We moved on.
We have. I do apologize. Thank you, Ben.
You say you can end on a high note by kicking them in the balls.
Okay, Adrian.
Yeah. What?
Would you like to say something to the people?
If you haven't watched The Last Kingdom, go watch The Last Kingdom. It's pretty good. I've read the books.
Oh,
I like The Last Kingdom.
There you go. I think I will check it out. Grimlock?
Do I have anything? Yeah. For you comic fans out there who want some old stuff at a really good price, the Mighty Marvel Masterworks is the best thing Marvel has in terms of value. It's digest size. You can get it for less than $15. It's actually a pretty good deal. You can get some of the classics that used to cost at least 3 times as much for the price of a variant comic these days. So if you see one, go on and grab one.
That's cool. Actually, the omnibuses are pretty cool too.
Oh yeah, oh, there's a lot of them. I was gonna say,
Really
any of you
sweet
guys
stuff.
fans of Squadron Supreme in here?
Oh yeah, me, hands up.
There's a pretty good deal on a Squadron Supreme omnibus. I don't know if you want to pay that shipping to Japan, Chester, but it's a pretty
Well,
good
the
deal.
omnibuses usually run around 125, $130, so that would
Oh
be
no, no, oh, no,
$200.
no, 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 no. It's not even close to that.
It's gotten more expensive.
No, I'm saying that it's not even close to $100. I'll post the link in the Discord chat for you.
Oh, the one you're talking about. I'm talking about the bigger ones, like the
Yeah,
ones.
no, this is an omnibus. This.
Oh, okay. Well, because I bought not too long ago Volume 1 and 2 of Excalibur.
Oh yeah.
So I do have that. I don't have a lot, but I do have a few. And that cost me just shy of $400 for those 2 books. So
Well, I usually look around. I try to make sure that if I can find a deal, I usually pass it along.
oh, thank you.
A friend
I
of mine
appreciate it.
calls it the comic crack because I just appear out of nowhere and I'd be like, yo, you want a Spider-Man omnibus on the cheap?
Oh, I see. You're kind of a corner dealer guy. I get it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm trying to give people the good shit
Yeah,
at a reasonable price.
I understand that. It's customer service. I understand.
Right.
Awesome. So Thundera, take us out of here, man.
It was very simple. We were talking about something a little earlier where people, specifically a few women, but some men too, don't have very good grace. That's the word we were looking for. They're not gracious. They don't carry themselves well in interviews. So, we're going to go with what is charity. Charity is not for the weak. Charity is not a show of strength. We do not engage in it for strength. We engage in it for one day we might be weak, or even once we were. Charity is an admission of our own mortality. It's the humility and fragility of our own lives realized through a simple act of grace.
Namaste. Later, everybody.